Yes! My very first Monday live stream. It's my Black Monday special. And Funk, welcome. Left the message in case he can't make it. I've never had a Monday show before. Never had a Monday show before. I'm going to go ahead and double check here. Okay, I am on the YouTube. I've never done a special Monday live stream before, but last year I made a video. It was my Black Monday video. I thought I'd just do a live stream, just make a Black Monday live stream. Talk about all the position openings that were available. Now, in all fairness, Adam Gase was fired Sunday, not Monday, but I'm going to go ahead and just lump them in here because I'm going to talk about the 6 positions that are open as far as the head coaches. But every Black Monday, there's always a curveball. There's always kind of a surprise. And apparently this has been going on within the organization, but I didn't realize it. And I've been saying all year, I thought Vic Fangio would go because I thought there was a disconnect between Elway and Fangio. Turns out to be John Elway is the one who's stepping down as a general manager of the Denver Broncos. I was shocked by this, but I did think that there was a big disconnect between what Fangio wants to do and what Elway wants to do with the team and the direction going forward. So I thought that Fangio would go, not Elway. Now, as I was reminded, Elway was not fired. He was not let go. He's moving, quote unquote, upwards in the organization, but he no longer has player personnel control. So read into that how you want to, but that's the first position I'm going to talk about is even though the other 6 head coaching positions I am going to talk about. You know what? Did I get all 6 here? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking through here. Yeah, I got all 6. The first one I'm going to talk about is going to be John Elway stepping down as GM, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that first. So I'm going to share my screen here. Kind of talk about I'll get rid of the banner here for a little bit. So I'm going to talk about the Broncos general manager position. Now, if you're not aware, I'm going to vent a little bit about the Denver Broncos. Vic Fangio was old school linebacker coach, coached what was called the Dome Patrol, which is, in my opinion, the greatest linebacker corps ever assembled in the history of the NFL. The NFL did a special top 10 linebacking corps of all time. They put the Dome Patrols number 1. I'm not going to disagree with the NFL Network because I think it's the right decision. I watch these guys play, the best linebacking corps I've ever seen. Vic Fangio was the linebacker coach. He was one of the best defensive coordinators in football. It took him a long time to get a head coaching job. And I was really impressed with what he did. He wanted to build a really good defense. This year in the draft, they went really heavy on offense. They also went heavy on offense in last year's draft. And what it is, they're building a young, fast offense, which kind of mirrors Kansas City. If you don't think it mirrors Kansas City, look at the numbers. Noah Fant wears 87. Jerry Jeudy, your number 1 wide receiver, wears number 10. I mean, come on now. I think the only reason they didn't give a 15 for a quarterback is because the last 15 they have, Elway didn't like that much. You guys remember that. So you have an old school defensive mind. And keep in mind, look at the history of the Denver Broncos. You have the greatest offense, statistically speaking, in the history of the National Football League. They go to Super Bowl, get blown out. They return 4 years later with one of the best defenses in the history of the National Football League. Not recognized as one of the great defenses, but it was a really, really good defense. They win a Super Bowl that way, shutting Cam Newton, who was MVP of the league, down to 10 points. I remember Broncos fans thinking, oh, we're going to give up 30. I'm like, oh, no, you're not. The no-fly zone was in full effect, one of the best defenses I've ever seen. And bringing in Fangio, I was led to believe that you're going to build a very strong defense, veteran quarterback, playmakers, run the ball, be old school. Well, there's a definite disconnect there. And that's why I thought that one had to go. Mike's joining here. Bucks and Bills getting close. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And And Mike, I'm gonna tell you this, man. Don't rule out the Colts or Redskins, but just off the top of my head, I would pick the Bills and the Bucks to advance. But you're right. By the way, if you're new to the show, Mike joined me this year, and Mike's been preaching Bills versus Bucks. I'm going to say since September. I could be wrong about the time frame, but Mike's been saying this for a long time. Funk says Elway stepping down feels more like he's going to bring in a guy to be a partner at the position as opposed to replace him. Just my thought. I think you're right, and you have a good point. I think he's still going to. Elway's hiring the guy. Okay, so Elway's not going to bring in somebody who's going to have a different viewpoint to what he wants, but he is going to bring in somebody. Keep in mind, the guy that he brings in, this is general manager 101, okay? And I'm generalizing. There are exceptions. But usually when you hire a general manager, the first thing you do is you come in, you hire your own guy, or if you already have an established head coach, you give him a 1-year deal, all right? Let them run for 1 year. You work with them. If it doesn't work out, then you go and you hire your own guy. And that's usually what happens. So Fangio is safe, but they could bring somebody in from the college ranks, or they could bring somebody outside the organization. And he says, hey, look, John, I got a different idea here. Look at the team. Let's bring in this coach instead. Let's just start from scratch. That could happen also. So Vic Fangio, I think, is still on the hot seat, but I would say that more than likely he's going to be the head coach in 2021. Here's my thoughts on the Broncos general manager position. And I'm going to start with the pros on each single one. Number one, great young skill position talent. I'm very surprised. And I keep in mind, I am biased. I went to the same high school as Drew Lock. I have liked Drew Lock for a very long time. I think he's very talented. I think the Broncos did a great job. I keep seeing mock drafts where the Broncos are taking a quarterback. I don't think so. Second-year player, upside. Jerry Jeudy was my number one receiver, my number 3 player overall. I think even though he had the case of the dropsies with an OTA and a mini camp, he's a valid number 1 receiver. You also bring back Cortland Sutton, a Pro Bowl receiver, missed the whole season. You had Tim Jeffries, guy came out of nowhere. Yeah, you got was it Hamler? I can't remember. I watched him play. KJ Hamler, a guy I watched a lot out of Penn State, a smaller guy with a ton of speed. They need to figure out a way to get him involved. I've been saying Noah Fant is probably going to be the best tight end in football in a few years from now. Lots of great skill position talent. Von Miller will come back. The best player on the team was gone this whole season. Bringing Von Miller back, this defense was not bad. They have some weaknesses, don't get me wrong, but it's not a terrible defense. Von Miller coming back helps big time. And I'm a Chiefs fan, and I'm going to tell you this. The Broncos have an A-plus class act organization. Everything about the Broncos organization is class act. I've been a big fan of the organization, even though I'm a Chiefs fan. I give respect when respect is due. This is an A-plus run franchise. If I'm a general manager, if I'm a head coach, assistant coach, this is a franchise that is a great franchise. I am very high on the Broncos franchise. Everything they do is first rate. I'm told the stadium is really cool. I might go one of these days. I've never been to an opposing stadium. I've been to Arrowhead over 300 times. Never been to an opposing stadium. But this is a great, great organization. It's indisputable, and I'm a Chiefs fan. All right, going to get some of these chats here. Isaac Chavez. Oh, it is a good day. We are going to talk about your Chargers. Pete, welcome, brother. For some franchises, it's more like Green Light Monday. Yes, it is. What's up, Mike, in the chat? Denver Gator, what is up, everyone? I will admit, this did not make a lot of sense to me, but at the time. I was told, and you can correct me on this, that the Denver Broncos have been talking about this internally. There was rumors around the Denver area that Elway is going to step down. It caught me by off guard. You'd have to let me know. One Pride 40. Jag's job went from the most attractive to the most unattractive in one day. I don't know if it's really the most unattractive. I actually am pretty high on it, but we'll talk about it. I want to know what you think. I'm glad you're here, brother. He's feeling good, man. Dan Marino should be the GM in Miami like Elway was in Denver, but I believe health issues had Elway step down. Best of my knowledge, it's not health issues, but I was saying there's a clear disconnect between Elway and Fangio. I don't think they're on the same page. I was really expecting just the opposite. I was thinking Fangio would be let go, and Elway would bring somebody he was more associated with on the offensive side of the ball. Somebody had more of a vision of what he wants. Because I'm looking at the players he's drafting. He's mirroring Kansas City, and it makes sense. I mean, Kansas City won a Super Bowl. They're the premier franchise in the NFL right now. So it's my thought process that he's trying to build a team like Kansas City, but you don't do it with an old school defensive-minded coach. That's my thought process. Because owner has full control. Okay. I'm going to get to that when I break down the Jaguars, because that's a little misleading. Kansas City did something very similar, but I'll talk about this in a little bit. One Pride 40, because this is a great point. Elway had help. I did not know that. Tim's long shot prediction: EB goes to the Jets. They draft Fields. I'll be honest with you. He's meeting with Atlanta. Me personally, I don't see Bieniemy going to the Jets. I really thought that he would go to Detroit. I said that for a long time. My thought process is that he's going to go to Houston. But he met with Atlanta today. That would be interesting to see what kind of direction he wants to go with Atlanta. But my thoughts on the Elway moves. Contract ends 2021. I think he's stepping away, so not to take too much heat. Buys him another few years to ownership settled. That's actually not a bad idea. For those of you who don't know, when Pat Bowlen passed away, the ownership's kind of like in flux. There was talk that Elway actually wanted to take minority control of the team. I don't know if that came through or not. So One Pride 40 said Atlanta would get he's in the running. He is in the running. I'm going to get back to this real fast here. The cons on the Denver Broncos GM position is a tough division. Excuse me. You have Kansas City. I'm going to talk about the Chargers here as one of the 6 teams that are getting a new head coach. They're, I think, on the upswing. They ended the season winning 4 straight. That's pretty good. The Raiders are, believe it or not, they're going in the right direction. That said, right before I went on live, I looked up the data information. He just got arrested in Vegas with a DUI. Josh Jacobs did, not Gruden. But that's not a good sign. But this is a tough division, all right? Bottom line, you're in a division with the team that's the best team in the NFL who won a Super Bowl, and now they're 15-1. That's really tough. Chargers and Raiders, I think, are going in the right direction. The Broncos are the one team in this division I'm kind of like, what are they doing? So that I kind of worry about. This is a tough division. If your goal is to come in and win the division in a few years, good luck. But if your goal is to get to the playoffs, you got a chance. You got a shot. Von Miller, even though he is coming back, he will be 32 coming off of a season-ending injury. Is he going to be the same guy? What kind of disconnect will he get? He's going to be in decline. I mean, it's just natural. You have a bad injury. You're going to be 32. He can't be in that much of a decline. Or he's going to have a decline. I'm sorry. I misworded that completely. He's on the downside of his career. How good is he going to be? That's a big question. That's something that's going to have to be determined. But this is a big deal. This is a big deal. So the John Elway shadow is large, folks. 10 years as a GM, you could pick apart a lot of things he did wrong. Bottom line, he went to 2 Super Bowls, won 1. And he also won 2 as a player. That's a big shadow. No matter what you do, unless you win like 3 Super Bowls, you're never going to. You're always going to be the second coming. You're always going to be a second son. No matter what you do, you can't equal what Elway did. You can't equal what Elway did. So, I mean, it's a big shadow. So, whoever they get as a GM, it's going to be there's some pluses and there's some minuses. But overall, I think it's a good position. Keep in mind, the more mock drafts I keep seeing, everybody thinks Denver's going to take quarterback. I think it's a great position because I think you have your quarterback. So if you think that you have to go out and draft a quarterback, then you're not in good shape. Whoever takes this GM job, the quarterback's going to be the number one thing. And I think that him and Elway are going to have to agree that Drew Lock is the guy going forward. I keep seeing mock drafts where Denver's taking the quarterback. Don't believe it. All right, before I get down to my Jets breakdown, Jimmy, I'm going to answer all the chats here. Jimmy, man, happy New Year, brother, man. Glad to see you, brother. Friday. Here, okay, matter of fact, I'm going to say this now. Wednesday is going to be a normal show. Friday, I'm going to break down all 6 playoff games. And then I'm only going to do a show. Next week, I'm only going to do a show on Friday. I'm going to try to see how that goes. Chargers will get Dayball. Maybe possible. It's in there. I saw that multiple times. I'm not 100% sure it's a good fit. Josh Allen and okay. By the way, Brian Daboll, in case you don't know, is the Bills' offensive coordinator. Josh Allen and Justin Herbert are both tall. They're both big. Skill set. The skill set's very, very similar. I'm not sure. It's a good. It would work though. I mean, it worked. Texans will get Bieniemy. That's who I think. Music City guy. Did Derrick Henry do anything? I'm just asking. What a performance. There's only, I think there's 8 running backs that run for over 2,000 yards. Only one is not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So that's good company to be in. Derrick Henry's playing some great football. Hold on here. Jags will get Marvin Lewis. Okay. I have not seen. I've heard that he was interested. Last I heard, he was helping Herm Edwards out at Arizona State. I'd be shocked if Marvin Lewis went to Jacksonville. But, you know. Lions will get Salah. It's kind of what I'm seeing too, is that Salah keeps on popping up in Detroit's radar. I don't think it's a good fit at all. I'm just going to say that point blank, and I'll talk a little bit because I'm going to break down Lions too, but I don't think it's a good fit. Oh, it was a car accident? I thought it was a DUI only. I did not know it was a car accident involved, but I did see DUI. It's a bad look. Vegas is not a good town for DUI, even if you are a professional athlete. He could miss games in the season. If it's an accident, he may miss 2 to 4 games. I did not know that. So Jags will get Case. The Denver job is really attractive. I think so. Jimmy brings up a good point. Is Urban okay? Remember, Urban Meyer did this. Okay, by the way, Urban Meyer has been making phone calls and he's been assembling a coaching staff, but he also did this last year for USC. He's got some health issues, but it's a really good job to go to. I think Urban Meyer would like to go to Jacksonville because he's going to have player control. What one Pride 40 said was that the owner was public and he wants to take control. That's sort of kind of true. The Chiefs owner, when he brought in Andy Reid, said he was going to get more involved. He was going to have input into player personnel decisions, and he has. But is he going to go ahead and tell the GM and the head coach, hey, so-and-so's starting this week. Hey, we're going to cut so-and-so? No. but he is going to be a more hands-on owner. So you have to understand there's some owners, look, when you have $1 billion and you buy an NFL team just for fun, which is exactly, I'm going to butcher the name. I'm going to say Sad Khan. I think that's the owner's name for Jacksonville. When you're worth 20, 25, $30 billion, whatever he's worth, keep in mind he's from Pakistan. He's not a longtime football fan. He's just super rich guy. Just wanted to buy an NFL team. You know, maybe if I had $50 billion, I'd buy me an NFL team too. I'm not sure. He bought it. Like the city of Jacksonville, made some upgrades to the stadium. There was talk about him wanting to move the team to London, which has always been kind of an NFL project. So Sasha Khan, I'm sorry, not Sad Khan. I don't know where I got that from. He wants to be more hands-on. But is he going to be a guy who's going to dictate draft picks, have player personnel? No. But just like Clark Hunt said he was going to be more hands-on the Kansas City Chiefs, and he is, I don't think he's really going to have that much player control. So whoever he brings in, he just wants to have more input on the team. Bottom line, you're the owner. Maybe you want to do that. There's some owners like Jerry Jones who wants to control everything. And then Sasha Khan, what he did is he just bought the team, upgraded the stadium, sat back, kicked his feet up and said, you know what, I got $50 billion. I'm just going to fly around the world with a bunch of bikini. I don't know what he does. I mean, I'll be honest, I really don't. He just wants to be more hands-on. He's a business owner. He has the worst team in Al 32. He wants to be more hands-on. Makes sense. If he hires a guy like Urban Meyer, he's going to be involved. But if Urban Meyer says he likes player A and Sasha's like, I like player B, player A is going to make the cut, not player B. And that's what will intake if Urban Meyer takes this position. This isn't going to be a situation like where a Dan Schneider does all the player personnel or Jerry Jones does all the player personnel. It's not going to be that type of situation. So this job is appealing. Urban Meyer will have GM type responsibilities. He'll probably hire some front office personnel, but Urban Meyer, if he takes the job, is going to have player personnel. It's all due to his health. I don't know Urban Meyer, but he's turned down jobs in the past due to health issues. I would love to see Urban Meyer in the NFL. I'm not saying he's going to be successful, but I think it'd be a lot of fun. Who do you think Eric Bieniemy will try to bring in for his future staff? Rumors, of course, but Broncos may be looking to put Lynn as assistant to take over if Fangio starts off winless. You know, Anthony Lynn would be a great fit as offensive coordinator. I think that's a smart move. But as far as Eric Bieniemy for his future staff, it's really hard to say. Keep in mind, Eric Bieniemy's coached in Minnesota, in Kansas City. He also coached at the University of Colorado for a short period of time. The former Denver Broncos coach, who's now defensive coordinator in Arizona, names – They were teammates together, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. Vance Joseph. They were teammates together at the University of Colorado. There's a chance that if Eric Bieniemy gets a head coaching job, he may be able to pull him away from Arizona. It'd be hard to say. I couldn't even venture to who he'll take over. I think that the first name he would want would be Mike Kafka, who's the quarterback's coach, who's been linked to a head coaching job, probably not this year, but next year. He'll want to take over as Kansas City's offensive coordinator. My guess is Eric Bieniemy would say, hey, look, how would you want to come with me to another team? My guess is he's going to say no, because the last three Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinators have all had head coaches. Eric Bieniemy will be an NFL coach, just a matter of time. This is in response to Sasha Khan saying he's got player personnel. He's going to be more hands-on. It doesn't mean he's going to make personnel decisions like Jerry Jones. I don't think that's it at all. James, I'm just glad you're here, brother. Thanks, man. Yeah, special Black Monday show. Do I think Drew Lock is the answer? The answer is yes, I do. I think he's the answer. You got him the tools. Hopefully there's an off season. There's OTAs or mini camps. There's preseason. Hopefully there's all those things. Jerry Jeudy, you got young receivers. I mean, look, you got Jerry Jeudy, as a rookie. You got Cortland Sutton, who didn't even play. Noah Fant was banged up during the year. He's got all talent in the world. Tim Jeffries, they got him from nowhere. KJ Hamler banged up, a lot of talent. You got to let the guy who's shown some ability and some talent to go ahead and go through. Plus, you still have some holes on the offensive line. So, yeah. I'm going to get to this, man. I'm going to answer all these questions. I'm going to start off with the Jets, though. But I'm going to talk about the Lions. I think it's actually an excellent job. Guess Jacobs and Gordon can take off some games. Yeah. One pride. If Sheila tells the next GM you have 2 years and you can trade Stafford, carry on tag, and trade Kenny, Detroit would be real attractive to me. Here's the thing: if you give him 2 years and you trade Stafford, that doesn't work. I would say that you would need at least 3 if you're going to trade Stafford, because here's the drill: rookie quarterbacks. I know that you have young, great quarterbacks in the NFL right now. You got Patrick Mahomes. Kyler Murray looked really, really good. You have Josh Allen. Even Baker Mayfield's been playing some really good football lately. But for all those guys, then you also have a Josh Rosen, who I think is on his 5th team in 3 or 4 years. Sam Darnold, who was my number 1 quarterback, 3rd overall pick. Who knows who's going to happen with him. Me and you both know football really well. Let me ask you this before Stafford: how many quarterbacks did Detroit have? Look, Chicago Bears, number 2 pick in the draft, Mitchell Trubisky. He's probably going to be gone. I think if you trade Stafford, you need more, but I do agree with everything else. The tag and trade Galladay would be interesting. The tag and trade Galladay would be interesting, but that would kind of be the move I would take. The thing is, though, if you get rid of Galladay and Stafford, that first pick in the draft can be used for one or the other. I don't think you use them for both. Me personally, and I'll talk about this some more when I break down Detroit, but I like Stafford, but tag and trade Galladay is pretty smart. Denver Gator says, I think Locke Cannon will be the guy. Needs to change local and national media perspective by balling out 20. I think he will. Look at the tools he's got. That skill position talent's going to be awesome. Don't forget, Cortland Sutton was a Pro Bowl receiver. And the mix that they got is really good. I just think they got to change a lot of things in offense, but that's a different thing here. Well, it said it's up to GM and head coach to make this. Sorry, man, I was answering a lot of comments here. One pride, so I got I got turned off here. Free beer in Detroit. Prater hit the longest field goal, which means wins the bet he had with Denver's kicker. So, Jets will get Marvin Lewis. I have not heard Marvin Lewis interview yet. I heard he's interested. That would be interesting, to be honest with you. Jags are at Byron Leftwich. Not sure, man. I'm not sure, man. Alex, welcome, brother, man. Alex writes in, how's it going, Dan? Sorry for missing a few streams yesterday. I had a terrible night after the Tennessee-Houston game. At least A&M didn't disappoint against UNC. A&M played a fantastic game. I don't know if you saw it or not. I thought Notre Dame and I don't think Notre Dame or Ohio State should have been in. I'm wrong about Ohio State. But Notre Dame I don't think belonged in. I think A&M and Cincinnati should have got in instead. Cincinnati played really, really good. Not enough in the tank. Still played really good. Very impressive team. And A&M, by the way, there's talk that Kellen Mond, even though he is going to the Senior Bowl, may come back. And if Munn comes back, A&M will be preseason top 7. Jimbo Fisher's doing a fantastic job down there, man. Alex, I'm glad you're here, brother. If I'm a GM, I'm turned off. Okay, I'm sorry, One Pride 40. I missed that. All right, I'm going to try to get all these comments and get going. Prater also passes Janikowski in all-time longest field goals. Yeah. Prater's a good kicker, man. I didn't know he missed 2. My bad. Cook said he will deny any trade from Houston. He's made it known he wants to develop with Watson and said if they want him gone, they have to let him walk. Yeah, I heard that too, and I really like that. And I've always been a huge Brandon Cooks fan. Loved Brandon Cooks. I watched him play at Oregon State. Really liked his game. Went to the combine. Ran fastest time at the combine. It was funny. He was supposed to win $100,000, but wore the wrong shoes. I think it was Adidas, and he wore Nike, or maybe I got two companies flip flop. Love his game, and I think he's a great fit for what they're wanting to do. So I think it's great. I love it. 2 years to not worry is why I'm playing. Okay. I'm with you then. All right, tag and trade Galladay, but that means you're building from the very bottom. And if you're going to do that, you can't do it with Salah, because if you get rid of those two guys, you have to revamp that whole front seven. I've been saying this, and I'm going to keep saying this. Salah's not the right guy for Detroit. Also, Watt said there was a lot of unknowns when it comes to – yeah, I think Watt's gone. I do think Watt's gone. I would love to see him go to Pittsburgh with his brothers. I think it'd be kind of a cool story. He can also come up to Kansas City. Unfortunately, it's not. He'd have to switch to defensive tackle, but yeah, I think his future with the Texans gone. But keep in mind, 10 years from now, he'll have his number retired. They'll probably have like a 99 statue. They'll do something really cool for him. Best player in the Houston Texans franchise by a large margin. Well, I'm not saying maybe not a large margin. Andre Johnson was really good. Very underrated receiver. But J.J. Watt, best player in franchise history. He'll play 1 or 2 seasons somewhere else. There's nothing wrong with that. Locke and the Broncos had a tough draw in the schedule this year. Also, they played all the second place teams from 2009. Yeah, they did have a tough schedule. Bottom line, I think that there was just so much youth on offense that a real offseason would have made a world of difference. And Cortland Sutton comes back too. Cortland Sutton, don't forget, it's like a 6'4", 210, 220-pound guy. Get him with Jerry Jeudy. You have KJ Hamler. And then they got this Tim Jeffries guy out of nowhere. There are so many weapons on this Denver team. I just think that they need to get a more creative offensive mind in Denver. So I'm a little surprised, but I think the GM, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the GM. But Denver's a team that I fear a lot as a Chiefs fan. I think they're re-signing Trubisky. I don't know. I really don't. I want to see how he does in the playoffs, because I guarantee if he lays an egg in the playoffs, no. If he wins a game, they may franchise him. Congratulations. Oh, this is really class act by Alex saying congrats, Music City guy for winning division. Well played game, though. It was heartbreaking. Class act for you, Alex. I wish I would have watched the game. I did not. Great game. Watson had, 400 yards? We're talking about the Houston Texans quite a bit. So, and Music City guy, yeah, it's been a long wait. Watson, top 3 Q. And I think you're right. I can't believe I thought Patricia was actually – I did too. Do not beat yourself up. But there was also a great disconnect between coach and GM there in Detroit when you're a first-year head coach. He's not at all to blame. I don't think Patricia will get another job anytime soon as a head coach, but he will be a defensive coordinator, probably maybe even back in New England. He'll get another job as defensive coordinator, and he'll do a great job. Dolphins have a top 3 pick this year, not because they went 4-12, because Houston did. Sometimes I question why I'm a Texans fan. At least I ain't a Cowboys fan, so it reminds me, how about them Cowboys? With Trubisky, I did not know that one, Pride 40. All right, I'm going to break down the New York Jets right here. I'm going to break down all 6 of the games, all 6 of the teams. I'm sorry. Here's what I like about the New York Jets. Draft capital. You have the 2nd pick in the draft, the 27th pick in the draft, 34, 66, 90. Now 98 is a 4th round pick. But keep in mind, you got 6 picks in the top 100. You probably could get, if you're lucky and you hit on all these, 4 or 5 starters. You also, I didn't put this in there, but you actually do have some salary cap room too. So you have some room to maneuver here. You can bring in talent, and keep in mind, if you, and they're talking about this, I think they're going quarterback, by the way. But let's say you want to keep Darnold. Let's say Darnold's your guy. You trade down, you could have 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 starters on this team. There's talent on this team, which is the second thing I want to put on to, is that there's talent on defense. Quentin Williams, a lot of people thought he was the best player in the draft. Didn't have a great year, but there was also times that he looked really, really good. I think that he has a lot of upside. They also have a lot of youth in the secondary that's really, really good. I think that there's a lot of talent on this defense, but I've always been a big fan of what the Jets did on defense during the year. Yeah, I know they were 2-14, but defense really wasn't that bad. I looked at this as more of an offense that was just majorly hamstrung all year round, but the defense very solid. I have never been to New York. I don't want to go to New York. I had a buddy of mine who goes like once or twice a year. I'd love to go to Vegas a couple times a year. I don't have an interest in going to New York. It is a major media market. Lots of people love the big city, the night lights. The difference, if somebody, a matter of fact, I could see Jacksonville making a trade with New York, just flip-flopping 1 and 2. Let's say Tannehill says, you know what, I've been to Jacksonville. I'm not a fan of Jacksonville. I want to go to New York. Reason why I want to go to New York is I can get $50 million more in endorsements from New York. That's no lie. That's no lie. So if you're the Jets quarterback and you win in New York as a Jets quarterback, sky's the limit as far as endorsements. Sky's the limit. In Jacksonville, if you're a good quarterback, are you going to get those endorsement deals? How many Blake Bortles commercials did you see? I didn't see any. So, did I say Tannehill again? All right, I'm gonna get to all these here. But bottom line, the major media market in New York is appealing. It's very appealing. Me personally, I'm not a New York type of guy. I'll probably live my whole life and never go. I don't have appeal. It is appealing to a lot of people. It's very enticing, especially from the area. So, cons, quarterback situation. Just because you draft a guy, number one, doesn't mean he's going to be a good quarterback. Just because you draft a first-round guy does not mean he's guaranteed to be a good quarterback. We can go through NFL history. Quarterback is the hardest position to evaluate. It really is. I think that somebody drew this design, I think like since like 2000, half the quarterbacks drafted in the first round lived up to being a first-round billing, and you can still make a case for a handful. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a quarterback. Anybody who says, well, we guarantee you that this quarterback's going to be good. You remember Tank for Tua? And you realize how many mock drafts I've already seen saying the Dolphins are going to take a quarterback at 3? How many people were they saying tank for Tua? I know if you're watching this right now, you heard tank for Tua last year. And now they let him play, and at times he looked really good. Now they're talking about drafting another quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a quarterback, plain simple. You can draft one. It doesn't mean it'll work out. Quarterback is the hardest position because there's outside things that control if your quarterback's going to be good or not. There really is. I don't think any quarterback it would have been successful with the Jets over the last couple of years. There's just so many things that went wrong. Second, I have his organization. And I think organization is a con, yes. The Jets organization has traditionally been one of the worst run organizations in football. They've made bad hirings. They've made bad GM coaching decisions. I thought Todd Bowles got completely screwed. His second or third year there, they give him the extension. They let him rebuild with youth on defense. Then he turned around and drafted a redshirt sophomore quarterback. I knew as soon as they drafted Darnold, Remember, they traded up to get him. They went from 6 to 3. The Colts ended up getting Quentin Nelson and Darius Leonard, 2 all-pro players out of that trade. Jets got Sam Darnold, who may not be the quarterback. The Jets organization has been one of the worst-run organizations in professional sports in a very, very long time. It's got to turn around, and GM's staying. The GM is staying. So, skill position talent. I loved the wide receiver out of Baylor, and I'm drawing a complete blank on his name. I plan to talk about him. One of my favorite players coming out in the draft. They got him in the second round. Injured most of the year. Oh, I'm sorry. I think it was the first 6 weeks, not most. Didn't have a chance to develop with Darnold, but bottom line, that's basically the best wide receiver you have is a guy who's a rookie who played half the season, basically. Second round pick. Drawing a complete blank on his name somewhere. Running back, Le'Veon Bell left. Fired, whatever you want to say. They need all sorts of help. Now, they have draft capital, but they got to fix this. They have got to fix this. The last, the AFC East is going to be tough. The Dolphins are one of the youngest franchises in football. They have a ton of draft picks. The Bills are loaded, and I wouldn't write the Patriots off just yet. Ultimately, I think no matter who comes in as head coach, you're in an uphill battle, man. You got to get a quarterback. You got to play in a tough division. And bottom line, you have no idea what's going to happen with the franchise. And I mean this, it's not a good organization. You could actually be 5-11, be fired that year. It's not Cleveland bad, but it's not good. Out of all the jobs, I would rank the Jets as my last. If I could take any head coaching job out of the 6, I think the Jets are the last. The last one I would take. Again, I'm not a New York type of guy, but let's say I was. I don't have a quarterback. I'm playing in a brutal division. I have to revamp my offensive skill position talent. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. This would be, as far as I'm concerned, this is the least appealing job. All right. Got a bunch of comments in here. Funk, the whole front 7 needs to be built anyway. Patricia and Quinn took the slowest roster in the league. They need at least 1 tackle and an end, 2 linebackers to be start. Oh, I 100% agree. And with Salah, he would want a fast front 7, and you have one slowest. That's why I'm anti-Salah. One Pride 40, who's Chicago play, they got the Saints, and that's going to be a fun game. I'm going to go into detail Friday. We'll also talk about a little bit on Wednesday. How about them Cowboys? How about the Eagles? The tank was crazy. Denver Gator, I'm sitting here and I want to tell you, hey, you know what? NFL teams don't tank. And I also understand, hey, you know what? You got to see what you got. He didn't look like he looked like he didn't even know the plays. I mean, Hurts could get out there and be functional. This guy looked lost. He looked like I don't know how many of you are familiar with how complex an NFL offense is. It's not like high school where you're like blue 42, and it's a different thing. And that offense was pretty complicated. Andy Reid coaching tree runs a complex offense. It's kind of funny. Rookie quarterbacks that come into Kansas City and the very first minicamp, the reporters are ready because they already know that they're going to get a quarterback who's just going to be like, what the hell was that? Because every single quarterback, the first day they come into Kansas City, say the same exact thing. And they say, I thought they were joking when I saw the play, because it's like 5 or 6 sentences, where in college, it's just the coaches on the sidelines are holding up the big flashcards, and that's all it is, because every team doesn't do it. Kansas City, it's like 5 sentences, and it's just a struggle to say the whole thing. It's that crazy. And so they're running a complex offense. Get a guy who's barely played in practice. I want to say that teams don't tank. Hey, NFL teams don't tank. I want to tell you that. I don't get it. And the difference is, it's a big difference. They go from 9th to 6th, and they're going to move on from Wentz. I mean, you almost have to. It was goofy, man. He was like my way or high. Yeah, he was. I'm assuming you're talking about Matt Patricia, and he's very unflexible, didn't have a good ability to really work with people. It's a lot different when you're under Belichick's rule. A lot different when you're under Belichick's rule, but he tried to be like mini Bill. And I think he's an excellent defensive mind if you're talking about Patricia. It just did not work out. Yeah, Jets organization's bad. I mentioned, oh, wow, I got a lot of comments here, so I'm sorry. I mentioned the Broncos are an A-plus organization. The Jets have never in the history of the world been called an A-plus organization. Actually, in the 60s, they were probably an A-plus organization. They have not been a good organization for a long time. The no-names got into the playoffs. The best team who could have won that division, not because I think they'll get far at all, but it's because what that division deserves. You know what? If I'm Tampa Bay, I would have rather. I think Washington would be a team that I want, because the secondary's the weakness. You can throw on them, and Alex Smith looks hobbled, and he's never had a big arm, so that matchup's really good for Tampa Bay. I'm liking in the NFC. I really think that 2 or 3 of these playoff teams, even though it looks like Goff's not going to play, and the Bears have Trubisky, who may not be with the team. I would not be surprised if 1, 2, or 3 of those teams win. Now, keep in mind, I've been saying the Saints are the best team in the NFC. I still could see the Bears pulling an upset. All these 3 wildcard teams are dangerous. They're very dangerous, and there's some great games. Denver seems to embrace the process with all Philly teams. Jets can keep Darnold, trade down, rebuild, give the guy a chance without Gase. You know, I was so high on Darnold coming out. I love Darnold coming out. I don't think that's what they're going to do. But I think the Jets could get the tackle. Okay. I've seen this and know, because they drafted Mekhi Becton, and they're super high on him. Put him on the left side, so your left tackle's already good. They already got the left tackle. I think, yeah, Chicago. Did I say Tannehill? That was my New Year's resolution, to stop calling Trevor Lawrence Tannehill, and I already blew it. I did. God damn it. All right, my New Year's resolution's already shot to hell, so 2021 is guaranteed to be worse than 2020. So, no. The Jets organization isn't good. They put cameras all over the facilities to watch the players. Very little trust between the staff and players. The owner doesn't do much. Yeah. It's a bad organization. That's a big reason why if I'm Eric Bieniemy, I know I have my choice. This is 1 through 6, and I have them numbered. I'm starting at the worst, and I'm ending with the best. This is why I don't want it. That's actually a thing. Yeah, believe it or not. Going to send. Oh, man, I have no idea why I do this, man. I'm bad with names. Tip: when you're dating a girl, just call her baby. Just call her baby, because you're my baby girl. Just go with that. Jets go with Sewell, and Burrow can sit out the next year. He needs protection bad, or his career will be short. Again, they love Mekhi Becton, exceeded expectations. He'll be the starting left tackle. They spent $60 million on offensive linemen last year. I didn't understand the Fant pick, because you signed Fant. He was the left tackle in Seattle. Didn't do that good of a job. I don't know if he played on the right side. He didn't play much this year. I think he was banged up. I don't think they go with Sewell. They already got the left tackle position. They're going to use that draft pick on a quarterback, even though I've always been high on Darnold. I think that the situation is with the new head coach is, hey, they're going to start from scratch. I've always been high on Darnold, but I think the Jets are going to go ahead and use the second pick on the quarterback, and they'll move on from Darnold. I don't agree with that completely, but they're not going to go with Sewell. They already got Mekhi Becton. I actually think Mekhi Becton's a better prospect than Sewell, to tell you the truth. Remember, Sewell sat out. You don't know what he's going to be like. People are saying he's a top 5 player. He sat out a whole year. Did he gain too much weight? Does he look good? Combine's going to be big. This is why Eli went to New York for media exposure. You are 100% correct. And he also got a ton of money from the media. He did a lot of advertising in New York. I saw like billboards of Eli Manning all over. Hosted Saturday Night Live. It was surprisingly funny, believe it or not. I was like, Eli Manning? Yeah, he got to. That's another thing. You win in New York, you get to host Saturday Night Live. Kind of cool. I would like to host Saturday Night Live. I would probably suck. I cannot sing. Eli Manning was pretty funny on Saturday Night Live. I will give him credit for that. I got to give credit where credit's due. But yeah, you go to New York, you make a lot of money. If you win in New York, you will get tons of money. Denzel Mims, that was the guy. We heard draft. Oh yeah, me and you talked about this. Here's the thing: if you're anti-Tua, I said this when he started him, that he should have sat the whole season. I said it was a mistake. I'm looking like I'm right. Let him sit for the whole year. That was the mistake. Me and Alex 100% agree. I would never live in New York, visit. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you had family there, man. But I'd never move there. If I had a choice which team I'd go for, I'd never choose New York. Yeah, it's not on my bucket list. I'm actually from Baltimore. I'm born on the East Coast, lived in the Kansas City area now 36, 37 years, something like that. After a few drinks, the East Coast accent comes out. But Baltimore was cool. I got to visit DC when I was a kid. I don't know. Nothing about New York really appeals to me. This is the guy I was trying to think of, Denzel Mims. Super high on him. He's number 1 receiver in New York. Tennessee Titans logic guy. Welcome, brother, man. I was asking Music City guy, did Derrick Henry do anything yesterday? I don't know if he played or not. One Pride 40, I never liked Tua. Wow. Dan, the QB from A&M is a really good one. When he goes in the draft, which I believe is next year, he should go high in the draft, though I think he'll go late. Well, he's supposed to come out this year, but with COVID going on, he is going to the Senior Bowl. He's got a lot to work on, but I liked him a lot more than Jalen Hurts. Okay, Jalen Hurts was a 5th-round player. Okay, he was a 5th-round player. And then he went to the combine and looked really good, changed all of his mechanics, aced the whiteboard. And from what I'm told, Kellen Mond is a junkie. Like he'll ace the film room. His arm is amazing, but he's missing some details. All the talent in the world. If you're a team that wants quarterback in 3rd or 4th round, Kellen Mond's available, you got to take him. He has got all the tools in the world. Needs a lot of work. I personally, because he said that even though he has accepted an invitation to the Senior Bowl, he's said that he's open to returning to A&M. As I would love to see him go back to A&M because I think he'd be a Heisman candidate. And they're recruiting down there too. That Jimbo Fisher knows how to recruit. You nailed it, Funk. Bengals need Sewell, but Jets would be smart to get Sewell. That's another thing. The Bengals also drafted Jonah Williams 2 years ago. They like him at left tackle, so I don't think Sewell is going to go to either the Jets or the Bengals. But if you've been looking at mock drafts, and I know you have, you've been seeing Sewell go to either one of these teams. Both these teams have drafted left tackles that they're very happy with. Is there a team that's going to trade up and get Sewell? Maybe. I want to say how he looks at the combine. The combine's important. He didn't play it all this year. Our NFL teams are going to say, you know what? If the guy loves football, why'd he sit out? I mean, we're going to spend a top 5 pick on. Dick Vermeil said it best. Never draft an offensive lineman in the top 5 unless you're convinced he's going to be a Hall of Fame player or else you wasted a draft pick. I'm going to tell you right now, I think even if Sewell looks great to come, I don't think he's going top 5. That's a great thing about the show. We agree to disagree. Hey, Music City guy, man. Titans fans are in the house. By the way, I just great win, great game. Derrick Henry's a lot of fun to watch. That is the number one game I'm looking forward to, Titans and Ravens. Wow. You couldn't script playoff games any better than they are. Hey, Titan. Really? Yep, that's an L. Oh, okay. You're talking about the Bears and Saints, I believe. Yeah. Golden Rooster, what's up, brother? Saints are, yeah. I've said the last 3 years, and this is year 4, that the Saints are the best team in the NFC. And I remember last year they were 9.5-point favorite last year against Minnesota. Did not come to play. I don't expect that again, but since it happened last year against an NFC North team, it could happen again. The Bears are going to have a blueprint to win this game, and they're going to come out aggressive. So it's going to be a fun game. The NFC, I could see the wild card teams presenting a lot of problems. In the AFC, I could say the same thing, but I also wouldn't be surprised if the except for the Titans-Ravens game, I think that's a coin flip. But I would be shocked. The Colts have a fighter's chance against the Bills. And I'm going to go over all these games in a lot more detail, but I would be shocked if Pittsburgh loses to the Browns. I would be shocked. I mean, to me, that's if you do a survivor, which team's definitely going to win? Pittsburgh. You watch Browns win by 3 touchdowns. Who knows? If Giants would have made it, do you still pick Brady to win? LOL. I would. I will say this. I think that the Giants present a different challenge than the Redskins. With the Redskins, you're getting the best defense, and you have all sorts of problems. But you also know if you're Tampa Bay, you get to 21, it's over. Now, if you want to say the same thing about Giants, yeah, but the Giants can kind of scare me. The Giants could get – the Giants, to me, would be a little more dangerous on the offensive side of the ball. And they still have a really good defense. But if I'm Tampa Bay, the team if I could choose one of those 3 teams, I would choose the Redskins. Even though they have the best defense, you put up 21, it's over. The defense looks crazy. Hood, he means good. And you're right. The Saints defense does look really good. Thoughts on the Falcons trading down if they keep Ryan, which I think they should. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. I'm going to bring up the next team I want to talk about. I'm going to get your comments, and we'll talk about the Detroit Lions. Schaub retired today. If he didn't get that injury, the Texans would have won. Dude, Matt Schaub was really good, man. I forgot about that injury. That injury is bad. He had 3 or 4 years that he was a really good quarterback. He got injured. He was not the same. Not the same. One Pride 40, why not a good right tackle? It's not inconceivable to take a guy early in the first round, real early, like top 10, and make him a right tackle. But unless the guy is going to be a guaranteed all-pro, which Sewell is not. Sewell, people think this is a lot. There's some scouts that think he's a late first round. Some people think he's a high first round. The one thing, if you watch a lot of film on him, he's on the ground a lot, which is a major no-no. As far as him being a right tackle, you don't want to spend it unless you're convinced this is going to be an all-pro. The Giants did that with Andrew Thomas. They took Andrew Thomas. He was supposed to be a right tackle. They had moved him over to the left side. NFL teams aren't looking at that. I can tell you right now, the Jets and the Bengals. The only way the Bengals would draft him is if they're convinced he's going to be this superstar right tackle. Lane Johnson in 2013 was drafted, and they put him on the right side. Went to a couple Pro Bowls. Was he worth 3rd pick in the draft? That's debatable. He was the best player available. He went to a couple Pro Bowls. I don't think Sewell will do it. I think Sewell's going to surprise people. I think that he's really going to slip down the board. I really do. I don't think he's going to end up with the Jets or the Bengals. And if he does end up with the Bengals, he may end up on the right side. I think the Bengals got way too many holes. That's in my opinion. But hey, we're going to do a lot of talk about the draft one, Pride 40. So, oh man, I'm sorry about this, man. I'm missing a lot of comments. I'm glad he left. He was one of the highest paid backups. Yeah, dude, Schaub was so good for a long time. I remember he got hurt and just was not the same, man. Not the same. Dude made like $95 million. So, I mean, he's not doing bad. What's my honest opinion to a good starter or questionable going forward? Mike, here's a drill. You got to have a full off season. I think Miami mismanaged Tua as bad as you can get. He's just sat the whole season. But with OTAs, mini camps, preseason, you get an honest opportunity. And with the third pick in the draft, whether they use that third pick or whether they trade down, they're going to get some upgrades to this offense. Don't forget the offensive line had 2 starters. The offensive line was in flux. They found running backs off the street. The receivers were constantly injured. Gesicki's still an up-and-coming prospect. Really good player, though. So the answer is incomplete. I really want to see more. I think they did a bad thing by having him start midway through the season. I think he should have sat the whole season, maybe started the last game of the season if they were out of it or something like that. They put him in a really bad spot. I think the Dolphins, out of everything they've done with the draft and building their team up, the biggest drawback is how they managed to a situation. It's incomplete. I can't give you an answer one way or another because there's not enough information. But I will say the Miami Dolphins did everything they could to screw this kid over. I don't think the Dolphins go to well, I mean, here's the deal: they have the third pick in the draft, but I would be shocked if they took a quarterback. I think you got to give him an opportunity to grow and develop with a normal off season. A rookie quarterback without OTAs and mini camps it's so hard. You have to understand the difference between high school and college in the NFL is 2 separate and different things. In high school to college, you're just going up in level of athlete. In stadium, yeah, the playbook's a little bigger, but you're basically playing the same thing. It's not the same thing in the NFL. It's a different game. It's a different species. And so you really need the full off season. Giants are a healthier organization. Oh yeah, then the Jets, no doubt. Mahomes has a lot of endorsements, though. Is Kansas City a very big? No, Kansas City's one of the smallest media markets in football. That's kind of it's kind of a very unusual thing to get any media attention here in Kansas City. Kansas City's probably the smallest media market, maybe Green Bay and Jacksonville. The difference is Mahomes can't miss TV. I mean, anytime Mahomes is on the field, he's going to do something phenomenal. So he's kind of earned it through phenomenal play. And they also built a great team around him. Mahomes is the perfect storm, okay? The organization handled it the right way. He handled himself the right way. Number one, Alex Smith was more than happy to put his arm around him and say, hey, look, let me help you. I'm going to help you become a great NFL quarterback. And he was the perfect tutor. Andy Reid has the perfect offense. He didn't have to play his first year, so the expectations weren't on him. He befriended Travis Kelce almost immediately and was hanging out with him weeks after he was drafted. Smart, underrated move. They're going to baseball games together, drinking beers a few weeks after he became a Kansas City Chiefs. Also came in humble, thinking, hey, my you-know-what doesn't stink. A lot of NFL players, especially quarterbacks, can be that way. Mahomes isn't. Mahomes it's an anomaly. It's something that we should appreciate. It was like Brett Favre in Green Bay. Nobody saw that coming. Just boom. Green Bay's not a media market, but Favre's on a lot of commercials. He's still doing those old man commercials, the copper bracelet or the copper sleeve or whatever. But yeah. I imagine location doesn't matter much today in terms of making money off endorsements. I actually think it does. A town like New York, as opposed to Jacksonville, I think makes all the difference in the world. Take Blake Bortles. I've never seen a Blake Bortles commercial. But if the Jets went to an AFC championship game in the New York media market, because apparently I remember seeing something like Eli had, it was this insane amount of endorsements within New York. So he had like cars, suits, shoes, watches, all sorts of stuff. Blake Bortles, the year he took the Jacksonville Jaguars to the AFC Championship, he got the big contract. He could probably walk around the ball and nobody knows who he is. It's a different beast. Not as much as it may be used to, but it does mean something. It actually does mean something. One pride, the NFC North has a few studs that the right tackle has to deal with, even Romeo in Detroit to a lesser extent. There are some good right tackles in football, but I don't think you use a top 5 pick on one unless you're convinced he's going to be a superstar. Technically, Buffalo is the only true New York team. You're right. In case you didn't know this, the Jets and Giants play in the Meadowlands in New Jersey. I'm talking about the Jets. Oh, ouch, man. I hate Tua's release. It's horrible. You got give him an off season. Give him an off season. I keep forgetting Sewell is a left tackle. Here's the thing: the teams that are presented in the mock drafts already have left tackles they drafted. Becton was drafted last year. The Bengals drafted Jonah Williams 2 years ago. He hurt his rookie year, came back this year and played pretty good. But everybody keeps thinking that they're going to draft the left tackle. He could probably play on the right side. I've seen guys that played left tackle in college move to the right side, but Sewell to me will be an NFL left tackle. I just don't think he's going to the Jets or Bengals because they already drafted him. Jets will move him to the right. Okay, if he went to the Jets, which I don't think he will, more than likely Becton would move to the right. But Becton, people are saying, is the best player on the team. That's saying a lot. The team. So the tackle class is deep. We're going to do a lot of draft stuff. We're going to do a lot of draft stuff, but you're right. There could be several tackles in the first round. 2020 conspiracy theory, the NFL team will go to the woke NFL Super Bowl. The league is rigged, and they biggest con in Detroit, the cold. Dude, it gets weird here, man. It's actually nice today. Tomorrow maybe negative 20. So the no names, your Super Bowl. Alex Smith versus the Chiefs. Oh no, please don't let that happen. I love that. I know people that hated Alex Smith. I don't get it. Detroit is very small. I don't know if Kansas City as a city geographically is very large, but there's not even 500,000 people in Kansas City. Like the greater downtown area, there's not 500,000, but it's very spread out. It's a large area, just not a big population. Technically, the Chiefs play. I'm not going to. Okay, I'm sorry. No names versus the Bills. Mark my words, no names winning it all. First team with losing record. The last two wildcard teams with losing records won the games, won their playoff games. Just saying that. Detroit is a very small media market. Oh, all right. All right, finally, get to Detroit. The pros, skill position, talent. Now, I am including Galladay. I am including Marvin Lewis. Both those guys could be gone, but keep in mind DeAndre Swift. He was my number 1 ranked running back. He got him in the second round last year. At times, he looked really, really good. TJ Hawkinson went to the Pro Bowl. I think they're just scratching the surface of what he can do. So there's talent. I like the talent that they have in Detroit. What you're looking at is weapons. If you keep Galladay, you have your number 1 receiver. You have a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. You still have Adrian Peterson, and you have DeAndre Swift. Those are some really good weapons. I can argue top 10 weapons. Legitimately. I mean, Pro Bowl tight end, Galladay's really, really good. Marvin Lewis, solid number 2. Very solid number 2. You got a Pro Bowl caliber tight end, and DeAndre Swift could be a superstar at running back. They need some help, but I like the skill position talent. I'm in a minority, especially with this group, but Matt Stafford is a big plus because the very first question that you have when you take over a team is, what's my quarterback situation? I think you have a franchise quarterback in Stafford. Let's say you don't like Stafford. You have a trading piece. You can get some trade capital for him. Personally, if I'm rebuilding the Detroit Lions, I keep the offense as is, and I just atom bomb the defense. I've been saying this over and over again. Bottom line, you have skill position talent, and you have a franchise quarterback. The number one thing I've liked about the Detroit Lions is how many people they're interviewing and the process that they've gone through. This is an organization that's going through a good change. I will never forget, I thought they made one of the smartest moves of their franchise when they hired Steve Mariucci, a Detroit native. Hey, we're going to hire a Detroit native. They didn't really do their due diligence. They went ahead and just signed him. They actually got a penalty because they didn't interview an African-American candidate. So they also, I think it was a draft pick, but they were like, hey, look, we knew our guy. We got him. Hey, this is the guy that we want. So they've brought in so many people. They've talked to so many people. The way they've handled this so far has been A+. I also like the fact that they gave Patricia enough of an opportunity to see if he could work his way out. He couldn't do it. So bottom line, I like the way that they're doing things. They're moving in the right direction. I'm not a fan of Robert Saleh. I will say this over and over again, but bottom line, they are doing their due diligence. They've done a great job in interviewing GMs and head coaches. So, Funk will tell me Jones, Danny, Kenny G, all expiring contract. Okay. I knew about Marvin Jones. Actually, I knew about Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola. Kenny G, I still think that is going to stay with the team. I think if you bring in the right GM and the right coach, you may be able to get these guys to stay. Keep in mind, I still like the skilled position talent. You have Pro Bowl tight end, and I also love DeAndre Swift. How long has it been since Detroit's had a really good running back? I think DeAndre Swift will be that. And I do think that with the right guy, they can keep Kenny Galladay. So, thoughts on Jalen being benched? He was 7 out of 20. And then Golden Rooster said, did they tank? I want to tell you no, and I want to tell you NFL teams don't tank, but that offense is so complicated. To bring in a guy in that situation, I don't see how he was ready. And if they did tank, they went from having the 9th pick to the 6th pick. I want to tell you no. I want to tell you no. Logic tells you that NFL teams don't tank. To quote Herman Edwards, you play to win the game. I love Herm. Hated him as my coach. Loved listening to him talk. Bottom line, I want to say no. I really want to say no. I don't get it. I really don't. As far as Jalen Hurts, he was never going to be a great passer. He doesn't have the skill set to be a great passer, but he had 2 rushing touchdowns. The offense was designed as a very dumbed down version for Jalen Hurts. Basically, his offense is basically 1-2 run, which means you look at the first option, look at the second option, then you run the football. And that's why I'm not really sold on Jalen Hurts being a long-term solution. It'll be interesting to see what Philly does this offseason. Do they go after a quarterback? Do they draft a quarterback? Do they give Hurts a chance? Philly's going to be in an unusual situation. As far as tanking, I want to say no. I honestly couldn't answer that. I think Detroit would be a good place for Saleh, an offense that just needs a good OC and a defense that needs to rebuild. Sounds like a team he can do well in. Alex, I do disagree, and I'll tell you why. Number one, Saleh's only coached that wide 9, which is a variation of the cover 3 or a Tampa 2 type defense. You need fast, athletic front 7 personnel. That is the pure opposite of what they have in Detroit. And I think Funk just said, it was Funk or One Pride, I think it was Funk, who told you flat out the slowest front 7 in the National Football League is the Detroit Lions. And here's the thing, is that Saleh, to make it sound like he's this great coordinator, first 2 years he was in San Francisco, that defense stunk. They won 9 games. It was one of the worst defenses in football, and they had Eric Armstead or Buckner. There's not one player that's even close to being as good as either one of those guys on that front 7. Then they draft Nick Bosa. Drew Greenlaw came out of nowhere. And there's another thing. Solomon Thomas, he was a top 5 pick. He never developed into anything. If you're a great defensive coordinator, how did you not get this guy to work? Everybody thought he was going to be a can't hit or can't miss prospect. He's a complete dud. Is that have to do with coaching? Is he just a bad player? Everybody in the NFL thought he was a good player. Here's the drill. He didn't develop talent. He got the most out of it. And that's a great attribute. He doesn't have that in Detroit. He doesn't have anything close to that in Detroit. And as far as the offense, he needs to get a good offensive coordinator. But here's the drill. He'd have to get a good offensive coordinator and convince everybody to stay, because if he rebuilds that offense and he rebuilds that defense, you're not talking single-digit wins. I mean, you're talking a chance that you may go 0-16. It could be that bad. But I really think that when you run a system of defense or a scheme of defense, and by the way, people have figured this defense out. Okay, they ran it in Atlanta. Coach got fired. All right. They ran it in Seattle last half of the season. It's gotten better, but first half of the season is one of the worst defenses in football. By the way, the defense is not that good in San Francisco. It's not that good. He's not coaching the 85 Bears. Teams know how to prepare and work against that cover 3. Oh, yeah, they ran it in L.A. What happened to the head coach? He's fired. If Saleh, to me, if I'm Saleh, I want the Chargers job. Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator, they run – or actually, no, they didn't work together. I'm sorry. Bradley was in Seattle. That's the job I want. Detroit and Saleh doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And people say, well, he's from Michigan. How many head coaches are from the area? Give me the top 5 NFL head coaches. Give me top 5. Give me any name. All right. Andy Reid, he's not from Kansas City. Bill Belichick, he's not from New England. Sean Payton, he's not from New Orleans. Mike Tomlin, he's not from Pete Carroll, he's not from Seattle. The guy from Buffalo, drawing a blank on his name, he was from Carolina. It doesn't matter. They're like, hey, we want a Michigan guy. Why? The last time you had a Michigan guy was Steve Mariucci, and he sucked. He was fired halfway through his second season, or was it third season? He did a bad job. Being from the area is not an incentive. And a guy who runs a cover 3 Tampa 2 type defense with a fast, athletic front 7, you have nothing even close or even remotely close to that. Sorry. All right, let me get to my contacts here. There was a comment made by Chris Collinsworth. He said it was cool how you can talk to a woman now and they'll have a high football knowledge in the day of today, which I thought was a good point. You know, it's funny because we went out to eat and my buddy's wife was talking about football and she started complaining about Mahomes. And I'm like, I'm just going to bite my tongue and let you rant. You know, I don't see her very often, but it's actually, it's funny when girls are like, I like dating girls that know nothing about football. That's just me, you know. But anyway, kind of a rant here. Sorry about that. The public took it out of context and got mad, shaking my head. He had to apologize. Even. Oh wow, I didn't know that. Wow. Golden Rooster, I could go and talk about how society and women and all that stuff. I'm going to try to stay on track because I haven't even gotten to my cons on defense yet. Yeah, Funk, Swift, Hawkinson, Cephas, Jackson, Ragnow, Decker, and Hunter Bryant. Those 7 guys to keep on offense. Cephas is the wide receiver 2. Draft Lance in round 1. Detonian Leatherwood round 2. Stafford trade for a second and a third, and then the third grab a guard and a bruiser type running back. I don't think you can get a second and third. Me and you are going to disagree, of course, but by the way, this goes back to last year's draft capital. Me and Funk were on opposite odds of the draft last year. We kept on arguing, and Funk he's like, isn't it great that we can disagree? But I don't think you can get a second and a third for Stafford. Everything else, I'm on board with though. I don't think Cephas is a solid, good enough number 2 though. if you're going to move on from Lance, and you're okay, if you're going to move on from Stafford, and you're going to Lance, which I think would be a great fit. I think you should keep Stafford, but of all the quarterbacks in the draft, Lance I really like a lot. And you go ahead and you do this, you got to have a better number 2 than Cephas. I like Cephas. Don't get me wrong. He needs to be your number 3 if you're going with a rookie. Rooster, I agree. His words were twisted after a comment. Shame because it's cool. I didn't know he got in trouble. I didn't know he got in trouble for that. The two best places to land for Salah would be the Chargers or Atlanta. He should go to places with a need for better defense and already good. Atlanta actually make a lot of sense, but my guess is that I think Atlanta's going to get rid of both Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. If you keep Jones and Ryan, then Salah's a perfect fit for Atlanta. I think he'd be a perfect fit because he could actually tweak that defense as is and make it better, and the offense is already really good. I didn't think about Salah to Atlanta. I think Salah's best place would be the Chargers. Let me make one case where he could possibly. Sure, absolutely. One Pride 40. This is never going to be a show where I'm right and you're wrong. You have to agree with me, or else I'd kick you off. No. The whole point of this show is we're a bunch of guys. We're primarily men. There's some women that get involved every now and then, but we just talk football, man. This is a community where we talk football. This is never a community where I'm right and you're wrong. Hey, with drafting Sewell for the Jets, I don't think so. I presented my argument, but dude, he might get drafted, and I have no problem eating crow. No problem eating crow. None whatsoever. But yeah, man, go ahead and make your case, brother. I'd sit Lance behind Daniel and let him get a few games and start the last 2. I've always loved Chase Daniel, and I would love to see Chase Daniel get a full season as a starter. It's not long term. It's temporary. But yeah, I'd love to see it. I already touched base on this, but the Detroit Lions defense, this is bad, especially if you're bringing in Robert Saleh, wants to bring in a fast, athletic front 7. The defense of the Detroit Lions is bad. My voice almost cracked. And some of you guys touched about this in the comments. Detroit's a hard sell for free agency. It's not a major media market. Yeah, it gets cold. It's not as popular as Green Bay being cold because anytime you're surrounded by water and you're up north, when the wind hits the water, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. You're going to be cold. I was in Green Bay in February, coldest I've ever been in my life. Because once it gets windy and that wind hits, you're just screwed. The wind hits the water and it's like negative degrees. It's just, you're going to be cold. It's a hard sell, man. It's a really hard sell. It really is. Detroit's not one of these places that you can say, hey, man, I'm going to take a pay cut and go to Detroit. People said the same thing about Green Bay. And then all of a sudden Reggie White went. And then Favre got there. And then next thing you know, they won Super Bowl, they won Super Bowl 96, went back in 97. It was a really, really, really interesting place. Right now, out of all the places, you can debate Jacksonville or Detroit, but of all the places that the six teams that are available, I think Detroit's the hardest sell. Just as a city. I'm sorry. I'm not insulting Detroit, but I mean, New York, you got the media. Atlanta, everybody's heard hot Atlanta. Major media market. Jacksonville, Florida, no state tax. Some people think it's a hole. I've driven through Florida. I liked it. You're more likely to spend money in Florida than you are in Detroit. LA. I've never been to LA. It's on my bucket list, but next time I go out to Vegas, I might visit. No, yeah, you never know. And then Houston. It's. I've actually been to Houston before. I've been Fort Hood, Fort Sam Houston's in San Antonio, but I've been to Fort Hood. Houston's not a major sell, but it's easier to sell in Detroit. No disrespect to anybody from Detroit. Tough division. You have both the Bears and Green Bay that are in the playoffs. Minnesota had 15 draft picks with an off season. I think that they're on the right track. Even though the quarterback situation's murky. Chicago's a team that's dangerous. The last 3 years they had 12, 8, and 8, 12 wins, 8 wins, and 8 wins. The NFC North's one of the tougher divisions. I think that, especially if a lot of comments I've been seeing are that you want to get rid of Stafford. Okay, get rid of Stafford. Okay, your top three wide receivers are gone. Okay. This means that you're going to finish dead last in the division. Bottom line, it means you're going to finish dead last, starting off in 2021. So you enter 21 knowing you're going to have a bad team. Now, keep in mind, when Rodgers leaves, how good is Green Bay going to be? That's debatable, but I'm talking 2021. So, yeah. By the way, I'm looking at StreamYard. I'm not even looking at YouTube. If you're watching, please give me the thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Tell me how much you like the Cowboy. Actually, I don't care what you say, but it helps the algorithm. The more people involved, the better. But I'm going to answer some of the comments. And the next job, I will say this: if I had to choose between New York and Detroit, I'm definitely taking Detroit. All right. Get some of these comments in here. It's a deep draft for receivers. I'd keep Stafford, draft Trey Lance, and then draft defense, defensive tackle, linebacker, and safety. James, you're in luck because we are going to get a lot of draft talk. We're going to do a lot of draft talk. It'll be interesting to see what Detroit does. I've been public. I think you keep Stafford. Use that draft pick. You could trade down, get some defensive help. Use that draft pick, draft the right guy. I would have taken Simmons over Okuda. But depending on which head coach you bring in, Okuda might be maybe a future superstar. I didn't think he was going to be good in Patricia's system. I've seen people say they can get more for Stafford, even a mid-first. But let's say you get a second for Stafford and a 3 for Galladay. Late 2, Kenny to Kansas. You know what? We'll talk about this a lot when draft time comes around, but Kansas City is going to lose maybe 3 receivers this offseason. So Kenny Galladay to Kansas City is not as crazy as you may think. He'll have to take a pay cut, though. He'll have to take a pay cut. He's not going to make as much, but Kansas City's going to need a receiver. So I'm just going to say that. As far as Stafford's value, you have to pay a big contract. He's banged up, and so he's got health issues, and you also have to pay the contract. And this year, you have 4 quarterbacks that universally are in everybody's top 10. So if you're a team that needs a quarterback, it's easier to trade up into the draft to get a quarterback. And the 2 teams that really need quarterbacks, I think the Jets and Jaguars. Jets are debatable. There's quarterbacks in the draft. And then there's also, how do you feel about Mac Jones? How do you feel about Trask? There's been mock drafts of both those guys going in the first round. What about free agent quarterbacks? Phillip Rivers is going to be a free agent, believe it or not. Now, odds are he'll probably stay at the Colts, but what's stop him from taking $30 million 1 year somewhere else? The Packers drafted a quarterback, and then Aaron Rodgers comes out with an MVP year. Cam Newton's a free agent. Jameis Winston's a free agent. I think Marcus Mariota, he looked good in his limited time. Maybe 2nd pick overall. This is not, if you're Stafford, I would want to come out. I would want to leave at a different year. That's why I don't think you can get a mid-first for Stafford, is that there's so many other quarterbacks out there, and there's some health concerns with Stafford. I think if I'm Stafford, I wouldn't mind going to Detroit. That's another quarterback. What about Dak Prescott? I mean, I've heard talk. There's been rumors that Washington's been talking to him all year. Dallas apparently loves him. But yeah. Also, the Texans owner says he isn't going to get a college coach for Houston, so Clemson's head. I did not know that. But if I'm Dabo Swinney, as much as I love having Deshaun Watson, the only position I would really want would either be Atlanta. I would want to stay in that general area. I think he likes that area. But I think Dabo Swinney is probably off the market this year. But I could see him winning another national championship and going, well, let's see what the NFL's like. But unlike a lot of other coaches, he's never really been – he's been mentioned, but he's not like Urban Meyer or Nick Saban. So he also makes like – I want to say 10 million. By the way, 10 million in South Carolina is a lot different than 10 million in New York. 10 million in New York is probably like 5 million in South Carolina. Just saying. And he's making something like 10 million down there. So, and they also have Clemson also has one of the best recruiting classes in the country. And unlike the SEC, he gets playing the ACC. So you know he's going to get, if they play a full 12 game season, they can roll out their helmets and win 9. So can't do that in the pros. When we talk about Atlanta, what about promoting Morris? He's been a head coach, even though he's stuck in Tampa Bay. I actually thought he got a bad deal in Tampa. I thought they maybe could have extended him another year. Didn't have a great situation there in Tampa Bay. I thought he did a decent job. He's going to get interviewed by the Falcons. I think he also is interviewed for Detroit. I think Atlanta's going to go in a different direction, but he will be interviewed. He will be interviewed. Breaking news, Chargers are interviewing Garrett. That is interesting. I thought Jason Garrett got a bad deal with the Cowboys, but bottom line, he'll be an NFL head coach somewhere else again. I know Patrick Graham, the Giants defensive coordinator, is also interviewing, and he's a guy that the NFL is really high on. The Chargers, Jason Garrett to the Chargers is interesting. It's interesting. So the fishing is great in Michigan. Ask Ragnow if you've never seen Frank Ragnow's Guess the Fish. It's pretty funny. No, I've never seen it, man. I actually do want to see. I do want to see it. I actually follow. I met this guy McGrath Fishing. He's a Green Bay Packers fan. He has a fishing YouTube channel. Has a bunch of really cool shit. I don't fish, but I follow his channel anyway because he's a cool guy. Yeah, and he's Packers fan. He's just giving me some love every now and then. It's funny. His YouTube channel's kind of skyrocketed up there, but it's really cool fishing channel, man. I don't fish though. But I will watch that Guess the Fish, man. It actually sounds awesome. Don't look at the defense. It's slow, but I will say they have never had a chance to be healthy in a game. Hand has such a high ceiling. Don't know what we got. Austin Bryant or Julian Okawar I like, and Hand does have a high ceiling. He was like the number one player coming out of high school. Went to Alabama, had the same problem at Alabama, just never lived up to his potential, but the potential's off the charts. I think whoever takes over in Detroit, I think needs to run a similar type of defense, or if you get an offensive-minded guy, bring in a defensive coordinator who runs the same type of system and just adds to it. I think with a guy like Saleh who's going to blow up that defense, if you want to blow up the offense into defense, you're in some really bad you're just in really bad shape overall. But if you can bring in, if you can keep Stafford and just rebuild the defense, a guy that the Tampa Bay defensive coordinator, Todd Bowles, I think would be a great fit in Detroit because he would be able to turn around that same defense, make it pretty respectable. You could do that, and then you could do what you were talking about with trading Stafford and sign and trade. Galladay, you could do all those same things with Todd Bowles. I think Todd Bowles, if all the candidates so far, now I've been saying Eric Bieniemy, but I'm thinking he's going to take that Houston job, even though he did interview with Atlanta. If you don't get Eric Bieniemy, Todd Bowles would be great because he would be able to have that defense as is and build it up. The offense side would be a completely different story. He'd have to bring in an offensive mind, but he might bring in somebody from Bruce Arians' staff. And if that's the case, then you want to keep Stafford because Stafford's an Arians type quarterback. That'd be an interesting move. LA is overrated, bums everywhere. Never been to LA. I've driven to Vegas several times. First time I went to Vegas, my buddy wanted to go to LA. And I'm like, dude, I just drove it was like 21, 22 hours from Kent. I was like, dude, I'm not driving anywhere. And, he tried to talk me into it. I was like, no. But there's plans on me going to Vegas for the draft, maybe. But I am going to the plans are to kick off the NFL season in Vegas. And is there a chance I take I think it's 2.5, 3 hour trip to Vegas, to LA. I might go out. If you go directly outside the strip in Vegas, there's bums everywhere too. It's kind of, it's spooky at first. You get used to it surprisingly quick though. Houston residents eat out the most in the U.S., and we are one of the cheapest metropolitan areas in the U.S. as well. A lot of good job opportunities, nice people. Not only that, the weather's nice, and you're near. Aren't you relatively close to the Gulf? You're near a body of water, which is fun for like a spring break opportunity. I've never heard of like Houston being a spring break thing. I have been to Houston a few times. I like Texas as a whole. I mean, Texas over New York any day of the week for me. I've been in Texas several times. Always had a good time. Flowers has a broken forearm. Yeah, Flowers. I forgot. I forgot. So there's like 3K thumbs down. Thanks, Denver. Give me a thumbs up, man. Come on. James, I move Okudah to strong safety, have Walker play free safety, and draft a faster cornerback instead of drafting a safety. That's kind of interesting because I personally think you leave Okudah as a corner, give him an opportunity to have a full off season. And I can't emphasize this enough for receivers and corners. Missing OTAs in the offseason is just massive. How we'll play year one and year two is different. Don't give up on him yet as a corner. But he is a bigger guy. If you do ask him to play safety, you have to hit the weights, put on the NFL 20. But I would not recommend going ahead and moving him to safety just yet. But I get what you're saying. Add some speed to that secondary. Makes sense. 3,000. No on Jones, no on Trask, and honestly on the free agency already. Salah brings high energy and players enjoy playing for him. Modern defenses are built on speed, something that Detroit is lacking. Get guys with speed. People in Detroit are preaching that. I got more. No, listen, everything you're saying I agree with, but here's the drill. He had some good players in San Francisco early on, and he wasn't making things happen. All right. He wasn't making things happen with good players, better players than you have in Detroit. He didn't get it done. And then they had Armstead, they had Buckner, then they gave $90 million to D Ford. Then they drafted Nick Bosa. You had 5 first-round picks on that defensive line alone. Then you hit a home run with a Greenyard in the 5th round. I forget the other linebacker. Then they traded him, of course, to the Saints when their season looked like it was going to be bad. The one thing I will say is that Richard Sherman said he's not coming back, and I think wherever Salah goes, I think Richard Sherman would go. And Richard Sherman to a place like Detroit would be a big plus, because I think Sherman's the type of guy that would encourage and entice other people to go. So, I mean, the thing is, what you got to realize is that he does bring high energy, but he's never been an NFL head coach before. Yeah, players enjoy playing for him. I get that, but are players going to enjoy playing on offense when he doesn't know that much? They only know that one scheme. A guy like Rodgers can pick apart that defense. Now, Rodgers played bad last year against him, but the talent that they had in that Super Bowl season and what Detroit has is night and day. you have to realize you got to bring in a lot of people through the draft and free agency. And one of the things I've said is that free agent, it's hard to get people to come there. But I get what you're saying. I'm standing by it. I don't think Salah's a good fit for Detroit. Fitz magic. Yep, I said it. I remember. I'm thinking rebuild and sit Lance, Wilson, and Fields, whoever three. No, that makes all sense in the world. Bring a quarterback in. I think this is how you do it. I think what Miami did with Tua was completely off. What you do is you go ahead, you draft the quarterback, you have your guy, you have him, sit for a year. That's what Chiefs did with Mahomes. It's what Packers did with Rodgers. What Packers are doing now with the kid from Utah State, which obviously I can't remember his name, so I'm terrible with names. But yeah, this is what you do. Keep in mind, if you do this, you're going to have a bad season. All right. James will point out once the Lions have their GM, then we can speculate. Absolutely, and depending on who your GM is, will determine what you're going to do. Because I think that whoever you hire as GM is just going to come out and right away and say, "Hey, we're going to try to keep Stafford," or "Hey, he won't come out and say it, but you'll be able to kind of wordsmith what he says when it says we want to bring in young talent," and that usually means a new quarterback. So. Galladay to the Packers, Rivers and Breeze, maybe Big Ben retire. A lot of QB shuffling going on this season. Yeah, oh yeah. I forgot to mention Big Ben. That's another spot. Pittsburgh may want to move on from quarterback. I agree. Right now, I'm playing. That's awesome. I believe Sweeney said he would like to see Watson again. Watson isn't against reuniting college coach. They had a really strong bond. They did. I just don't see Rob. I personally don't see Dabo Sweeney stepping away for Houston. So far, as best of my knowledge, he's not been interested. But I could see him wanting to reunite with Watson, and they did have a great bond. Salop has developed guys like Tart on his defenses, unlike Patricia, who rode Belichick's coattails. Witherspoon's another guy developed it. Okay, so yeah, he got lucky with some linebackers. Remember the third pick in the draft, the defensive tackle out of Stanford, colossal bust. And that's the number one position you need is that defensive line. And I'm drawing a blank on the kid's name, but I mean, he got lucky with some of those linebackers. I get that. Keep in mind that the defense that the linebackers are using is a lot easier. It's a lot less thinking. The Patricia scheme, the linebackers had to do a lot of read, dissect. It wasn't like a read and react or, hey, you're running to this zone. It was a lot of it was a lot more integrated than what Salah runs a very basic system. But when you run a basic system, you need really, really good players. A system defense with slow players is going to blow up. But I get what you're saying. I think that you need somebody different. Please tell me to Garrett says I didn't know that. I didn't know until just now. I had no idea. So maybe somebody's pranking us. Garrett shouldn't be a head coach and offensive coordinator. Yeah, can work. He isn't good for a head coach. I know lots of Dallas fans really hated him. I thought I'd like to see him get another chance. I thought that Dallas franchise was kind of dysfunctional. I'd like to have him have more control over a team and see what he can do. I always thought he did a great job, to tell you the truth. I thought he did a great job. I mean, Dak Prescott was not prepared to be an NFL quarterback. They changed the offense, and then they added to it. And, they got away from running the ball. And I always wondered how much of that was Jerry Jones, how much of that was Garrett. I would like to see Garrett get another head coaching job. I didn't know that he was interested, that he was, or the Chargers were interested in Garrett. Interesting choice. If I'm Salah, screw Detroit, I would want that Chargers job. But Salah's best work was this year. Name the players on this defense. Defense ranked 12th overall with backups. Now, Eric Armstead did play almost a whole season. I know Nick Bosa and Dee Ford were both out. The linebackers played most of the year. Jimmy Ward was also playing most of the year. He had a great year, by the way. He was kind of a weird They kept on moving him back, safety corner. Finally found a home there. I get what you're saying. I don't think he's a good fit in Detroit. I don't think he's a good fit in Detroit at all. Mentioning fishing, went out fishing yesterday. Got 20. Holy shit, man! I didn't know you're a fisherman. I don't like fish. I love being out on a boat. So, you remember who was the head coach in San Francisco? Nope, it's real. Oh, the Jason Garrett. Are you talking about the current head coach? Shanahan. Oh no. One Pride. Remember who is the director of player personnel list in San Francisco? It's Mayhew. In case you didn't know, we let him go for Quinn. Oh, that's right. And by the way, he's being mentioned as a GM candidate. So when if Flowers balls out in Salah's system as a 3 tech, it's very possible in Salah's defense. Well, I mean, it's out of position. I mean, he's basically kind of a weird hybrid 3-4 end, and you would have him go inside and play defensive tackle. He would be a smaller defensive tackle. To be honest, I would think that he would actually move outside. I don't know this. I have no clue. But when I'm looking at Trey Flowers adapting the Salah's system, I see him on the outside, not the inside. He would actually play the 9 and be way out there on the outside, and he doesn't really have that skill set. But if you move him inside to the 3, he's going to have to gain a lot of weight. And Armstead and Buckner were 6'6" guys that disrupted passing lanes. That's another thing. But if he does ball out, I mean, that's awesome. Then you get 1. You got Okafor. Okay, you got 2. Now I just need 5 new starters. And I didn't even talk about the secondary. So, yeah. With Salah bringing LaFleur is also from the area. Actually, I would actually like that a lot. I just want you to know I want Elliott Wolf for GM. We are looking, Elliott Wolf, it's Ron Wolf's son, stayed in Green Bay, has a very similar skill set. He's actually in the New England, which is kind of funny because you guys didn't like the New England system, but you're interviewing a guy in New England. Kind of funny. I asked out ignorance and Salah inherit Fangio's defense might be off on that. I didn't see it. Okay, Fangio was in Chicago. I don't know if he was in San Francisco before. The San Francisco defense was actually kind of a weird 3-4 hybrid that Chip Kelly was using. That's how they got Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner. Both those guys were recruited heavily by Chip Kelly, because what Chip Kelly wanted was kind of an integrated 3-4 where the guys can play like a multi-scheme type of defense, but he wanted guys that were long, big, and fast, which is kind of like, okay, well, give me a wide receiver who's big, but he's also fast, but he also has great, he got guys that can do everything. And they had problems adapting, at first, because as 3-4 ends, they were kind of getting overpowered, but as defensive tackles, they really excelled. So, I don't think I think Fangio was in Chicago. I don't know where he was before Chicago. I apologize, but in that Chicago defense, he built that around fast. And that was the thing I liked most about the Denver Broncos is that, hey, you want a Super Bowl with a great defense, so you bring in a great defensive-minded coach. Great idea. You're not going to be able to compete with Kansas City's offense. Let's bring in a great defense to counterbalance that. Good idea. Then draft a bunch of offensive players. So, okay. Again, my rant's over. But with Salah, he inherited Chip Kelly's defense, and it took a while for him to get the most out of Armstead and Buckner. Solomon Thomas, that was the player. Solomon Thomas looked like a perfect fit. He never got the most out of that. And that's another thing. Salah's supposed to be this great with player development. Solomon Thomas was a can't-miss top 3 prospect. Couldn't even start. But he ended up lucking out with Chip Kelly's guys. So I'm not against keeping Stafford. I love him. I'm thinking long-term Stafford. I think that definitely if you bring in Salah, I think you have to keep him. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Detroit. Very interesting situation. Me personally, let's just say I'm moving in as general manager of the Detroit Lions. I'm keeping as much as I can on the offense intact. I'm just atom bombing the defense. That's what I see. And when I did my breakdown, I can send you the link if you want. I'll break down the 2020 Detroit Lions. I said this defense is going to be bad. And it was bad. And you need help. But the offense is fine. So here's what you do. You got one side of the ball that's good. Keep it intact. Fix the defense. Tart is good. Yeah, I like Tart. Bonus solid. Dude is yoked. The dude is yoked. I think he would be great for the Chargers. Bad for Detroit. Stafford is good for a win now position, though Detroit needs a future QB because Stafford's on his way out. Get a young guy to learn under Stafford for a year, then gradually play him in the second. I could see that, and I could see a guy like Fields really, really stepping in. I'm sorry, I got too mixed up. I meant Lance, the kid from North Dakota State. So, yeah, I 100% agree with you, Alex. We're always on a great fit. We're always on the same mindset. I just sent you Frank Ragnall's fishing show as well, talking with TJ Yang, Stafford. Oh, dude, thank you. So that just sounds awesome, man. And it's, hey, man. Dude, this is a show we can just talk, man. This show's never going to be, even though I got 3,001 thumbs down, this is never going to be Dan's right, you're wrong. Never that at all. All right, let me get through. I've been talking so much to you guys. I haven't even had a chance to get through these. The Atlanta Falcons, the pros, Hall of Fame quarterback and wide receiver. Julio Jones and Matt Ryan are going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, can you go ahead and move on from both those players? You might have to. We'll talk about that in the cons. But right now, when you walk into the Atlanta Falcons situation, you have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. You have a Hall of Fame wide receiver. You also have Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is turning into, I think right now he's one of the top 10 receivers in football. He's just going to get better. Does everything really good. And plus working in Atlanta, keep in mind, if you have Matt Ryan stuff, Julio Jones, this offense is super explosive. Fourth pick in the draft. Let's say you want to move on from one or both. Fourth pick in the draft, you have options. You can draft a quarterback. You can trade down. You can do a lot of different things with the fourth pick in the draft. When you step into an organization, what's the organization that you have? What do you say? And I've said this many, many times. You have a quarterback, okay? Who's your quarterback? Do you have a franchise quarterback? Well, you have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback here in Matt Ryan. So that's kind of the situation that you're looking at when you're looking at the Atlanta Falcons. If I'm looking to win right away, I keep Matt Ryan. I want to rebuild. I got the fourth pick in the draft. Plus, no matter what, I still got Calvin Ridley. The Atlanta Falcons is a world-class organization. Arthur Blank is one of the best owners in sports. I didn't know this till a while back, but he's this guy who started Home Depot. That's how he made his money, and he's run the Atlanta Falcons like a first-rate organization. Apparently, he fit the bill on a ton of stuff on the stadium because they redid it completely. Great owner, great organization. Everything in Atlanta's first rate. So this would be a franchise I would love to work for. And keep in mind, if I'm in a win now situation, quarterback, wide receiver, Hall of Famers, yeah, they're on the downside of their career, but they're still playing at a high level. I got one of the best wide receivers in all of football. I still got the fourth pick in the draft. A lot of good things. Really high on the Falcons. Here's the cons. You're in a tough division. Carolina looks like they're up and coming. Both the Saints and Tampa Bay are really, really good this year. Really, really good. Could Breeze or Brady retire next year? Sure. But if both come back, I mean, you're looking at being the third or fourth best team going forward. This is a tough division, man. It's a tough division, and Carolina's just going to be really looking good next year. So this is a tough division. I know it's a positive, but what do you do? That's the number one thing I'm doing is that if I'm taking over as head coach, I need to know what's going on with these two guys. Because if I need to win right away, I want them. If I can rebuild, these guys probably got to go. I know I'm talking out both sides of my mouth here, but bottom line, if I'm in a win now mode, and bottom line, if you're a head coach, you want to get those wins early. That way you can say, hey, no, I know we went 6-10, but I had to get rid of Matt Ryan, so give me a chance to rebuild. And considering I already got those wins, it's a lot easier to say. It's a lot harder to get into. It's a lot harder to keep your job when you have 3 or 4 wins and you're rebuilding. I'm just saying. They need some help on the defensive side of the ball. They really need some help on the defensive side of the ball. A.J. Terrell was a great draft pick, really high on the kid. They need a lot of help. They need several new starters all over this defense. And so if you do move on from Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, then you have holes on both sides of the ball. If I'm the Atlanta Falcons and I need to win now, I want to keep Matt Ryan. I want to keep Julio Jones. I have this great offense that can score 30 points a game with those two guys intact. I fix the defense. The good enough thing is that you're in a good enough situation with Arthur Blank. If you do have to atom bomb this team, he will give you a year or two to rebuild. That may not be a bad thing, but let Breeze and Brady retire, and then maybe you take over and start winning divisions in 2024 or something like that. It'll be interesting to see what the Atlanta Falcons do, but this is one of the best run organizations in all football. But if I'm keeping Ryan and Julio Jones, I fix the defense. If I'm losing Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, I'm going to get draft capital, use that 4th pick in the draft. But if that's the case, you're not winning anything for about 2 years. All right. The next 2 years are going to be tough. But I do like the Atlanta Falcons job better, and I like the Detroit job, and I do like it better than the Jets job. Next is Jacksonville Jaguars. Number one, pros is number one pick in the draft. I remember in 2013 when Andy Reid came here, we had the first pick in the draft. Or 2011, it was Cam Newton. 2012, it was Andrew Luck. 2013, it was I forgot his name. He's our starting left tackle. Bottom line, he's not a quarterback, and we needed a quarterback. Eric Fisher. So the year that we get the first pick in the draft, there's no quarterback. Believe it or not, a guy I went to high school with swore up and down the Chiefs to draft Geno Smith, number one overall. And he kept on going on and on. Why you got to draft Geno Smith? We got to draft Geno Smith. We don't have a quarterback. We ended up signing Alex Smith to free agency, thank God. But there was so much debate about the Chiefs taking Geno Smith. Yeah. Geno Smith, I'm not joking. There's about 500,000 Chiefs fans that wanted Geno Smith to be the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. No lie. So when you have the first pick in the draft, that's one thing. But when you have a generational type player in Trevor Lawrence, that's another thing completely. What's the one thing Jacksonville needs? They need a quarterback. Quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence would have went number one in this year's draft. So you get the number one pick the right year if you're Jacksonville Jaguars. But you have also, besides the first pick in the draft, you have the 21st pick, you have the 33rd pick, you have the 45th pick, you have the 65th pick. There's also lots of young talent on both sides of the ball. So you have some really good draft opportunities this year. You take Trevor Lawrence, you got 4 draft picks that can help you out this year right now. This is a team I think can be better a lot faster than you think. I think a lot of people are going to look at Jacksonville as maybe a 4 or 5 win team. This is a team I think can go from 1 win to like 8 wins. I think Trevor Lawrence plus these draft picks can make sure. I think Trevor Lawrence with these draft picks can maybe even get a wild card spot. Because there is talent on defense. You got K'Von Chasen on one side. You got Josh Allen on the other. EJ Henderson had some good moments as corner, and the offseason will help out quite a bit. You're also going to add to that defensive talent with these picks after you draft Trevor Lawrence. You also have talent at skill position. DJ Chark, I was extremely high on coming at LSU. The wide receiver they got out of Colorado, Chenault, I really, really was high on him. Chris Conley got cut by Kansas City. He's been playing pretty decent there. And then James Robinson came out of nowhere to be a really, really good running back. There's talent on Jacksonville. There is talent on Jacksonville. They need a quarterback. So you go ahead and you get your quarterback, get some help. The question is, how fast in the direction? It'll be very interesting. There's been a lot of Urban Meyer talk. Lots of Urban Meyer talk. I would like that. And if Urban Meyer, with his ties to Ohio State, maybe they take Justin Fields. I'm going to do this when I start talking draft. Don't be surprised if 1 and 2 flip. Well, don't be surprised if 1 and 2 flip and Jacksonville wants to get an extra pick if Urban Meyer comes because they want to take Fields instead of Lawrence. Don't be surprised. But if I'm running Jacksonville, I take Trevor Lawrence. I build up my team with the best player available and just go to town. The cons, you do need to use that first pick in the draft on a quarterback. Don't be surprised if 1 and 2 flip, especially if Urban Meyer comes there and you want to take Justin Fields. One thing is that, remember last year, there's a lot of people talking tank for Tua. You remember the talk? Now there's people talking, even here today, right now, what do you think about Tua, Dan? I'm like, oh, you got to take a look. But remember last year, people were talking tank for Tua? If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a quarterback. You can't count on a rookie. You cannot count on a rookie. Trevor Lawrence is the highest rated quarterback since Andrew Luck. You can make a case that Trevor Lawrence is one of the top 3-4 quarterbacks coming out of college ever. He would have went number 1 last year. You can't count on the quarterback, so that's why it's a problem. 15 straight losses. The Raiders, after the first season, there's like only, I think it's something like 15, maybe not even that many. I know when Andy Reid took over in about 2 years, the roster was totally rebuilt. Bottom line, when you have 15 straight losses, you have a losing culture. You got to change a lot of things internally. It means you got to move a lot of players around. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot. This is not going to be an easy task. That's why you got to take advantage of these things right here. Not just one of these things, all of these things. Lawrence isn't going to be successful unless you hit on this. He's not going to be able to be successful unless the players on defense develop, and he needs to utilize these players. Jacksonville's Jaguars organization and small market, I'm kind of linking them together. Sasha Khan's an excellent businessman. He's not an NFL guy. If he wants to be more hands-on, great. I don't blame you. You're the owner. Yeah, you want to be more hands-on. Give me the intricacies of the wide receiver route tree. He probably doesn't know what you're talking about. Nothing against the guy, but he wants to be more hands-on. The Jacksonville Jaguars organization's not been famous for being very good. There's talks about them moving to London. It was really doing its best when he went to the AFC Championship game when they let Tom Coughlin, when they let Tom Coughlin, even though he wasn't general manager, he was like director of player personnel, did a lot of things. When he was kind of running everything, that was when they were at their best going to the AFC Championship game. But I mean, here's a culture where several players kept on losing. Remember, they lost Yannick Ngakoue, I'm going to butcher that name. Leonard Fournette, 4th overall pick. They just cut him. The best corner in football, who's now in LA, Jalen Ramsey, who's from the area. There's a lot of things, man. There's a lot of things. But I think this job's very appealing, but you got to be the right guy. I've been hearing Urban Meyer. If he wants to take the job, I think it'd be a great fit. I think he'd be a great fit. He would have a lot of player personnel. If he does take the job, does he want Fields or does he want Lawrence? Next is the Houston Texans and the pros. Deshaun Watson. It doesn't get any better than Deshaun Watson. Maybe the second or third best quarterback in the NFL. The number one thing you ask when you take over a franchise is, do I have a quarterback? The answer in Houston is yes. There's a lot of talent on defense. There is a lot of talent on defense. The defense was bad. Let's not say that, but there's a lot of talent. Even if you move on from J.J. Watt, there's still a lot of talent on this Houston Texans defense. So I think it could be a situation where you bring in a defensive-minded coach, turn that defense around, then you have Deshaun Watson. I now think this will be the spot Eric Bieniemy goes, because Eric Bieniemy, after working with Mahomes, gets to work with Watson. He wants to work with a top-caliber quarterback. Makes a lot of sense to me. Bring in a defensive guy. The best part is that this defense doesn't have to be a top 10 defense. It was a top 10 defense for a long time. This year it fell apart. The talent's there. Unlike a lot of these teams that need to add a bunch of players, Houston really doesn't. That's the one thing I really like about the Houston Texans is you have your franchise quarterback, you have talent on defense. You really don't need a lot. I think it's just a culture change. You also have a solid offensive line, not a great offensive line. Part of giving up the third pick in the draft so you can get Laremy Tunsil, one of the better left tackles in football. In my opinion, the two most important positions in football are quarterback and left tackle. Houston has those. Two of the best in their prime. That's what you need. That with talent on defense. The Houston Texans, out of all the teams I'm going to mention, is the one team that could definitely go to the playoffs next year. They went to the playoffs last year. Won a playoff game. Let's talk about the cons. There's no first or second round draft pick. And yes, that does suck. But it's only this year. You're taking over the head coaching job unless you do something really idiotic. You're going to get a chance to coach next year, and for the 2022 draft, you're going to get a first and a second round draft pick unless you trade both of those, which I doubt you'll do. But bottom line, it's only for 1 year. But it does suck that you got to wait till the third round to get a pick. It does suck. But in all fairness, this is the only team that you could legitimately say, hey, we should be in the playoffs next year. But yeah, it's a big thing to look at. Lack of skill position talent. Losing Hopkins was big. Obviously, David Johnson didn't revert back to form, or else, Bill O'Brien keeps his job. And anyway, bottom line, David Johnson didn't return back to the form where he was the number one pick in every single fantasy football draft. But he's still a decent player. But bottom line, you're not looking into the offseason going, okay, a running back's locked. No, they need help at receiver. Fells is a good tight end. Don't get me wrong. I think he's 37, so you need a tight end. You do need a wide receiver. You do need another wide receiver, and that's the one thing is that. Aaron Rodgers has Devontae Adams, arguably the best receiver in football. Patrick Mahomes has Travis Kelce, the best tight end in football. Tyreek Hill's a pretty good wide receiver. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big. We're just talking about him. Guy from Oregon State who said he wouldn't get traded. I just drew a blank on his name. Anyway, you have him. He's a pretty good player. William Fuller, when he's playing at his best, or when he's healthy, he's a number one. Brandon Cooks, I'm sorry. So you have Brandon Cooks, you have Will Fuller. I think you need another receiver, and you need one that's going to play 16 games. Maybe want to get a bigger, more physical receiver. If you had the third pick in the draft, you probably draft Jamar Chase and not even think twice about it. But yeah, there is a lack of skill position talent. Number one. And by the way, I like Houston a lot more than I like these other ones. if I'm offering. But my number one pick for the best head coaching job is the Los Angeles Chargers. The quarterback situation's ideal. You have the rookie quarterback who looks like he's going to be a superstar. He's under the rookie contract, so you can add in free agency. You also still have Tyrod Taylor. Now, he could walk this offseason. I don't know his situation. But bottom line, Tyrod Taylor as a backup is perfect. Now, he was supposed to start. It was a weird situation. But the quarterback situation, out of all these teams, this is the best one. Now, is Deshaun Watson a better quarterback? Absolutely. But he also takes up $40 million a year in cap. Justin Herbert's on that rookie deal and looks like he's going to be a superstar. It's very rare that you have a superstar quarterback or a quarterback who's broken all these rookie records, looks like a star, and the coach gets fired. Very rare that happens. So if you walk into this, you got the quarterback situation locked down perfect. The defense, I said before the season, I thought that this was the best defense in the AFC West. You have Nick Bosa, Phillips on the other side. I'm drawing a blank on his first name. Really, really, really great player. He's a free agent. He's a free agent. He also used a first pick in the draft. Another name freeze. The kid out of Oklahoma. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Really, really good player. You also get is this my third straight name freeze? I need to take better notes, folks. I apologize. I've been going on. This has been going on for a little over 2 hours, so I'm starting to get my mind fried. But the defense is loaded. This is a good defense, and they're going to bring players back. This could easily be one of the top 10 defenses in all football next year. Easily one of the top 10 defenses in all football. Skill position talent. Austin Eckler, great multidimensional tool, really underrated, really great player. Keenan Allen, top 10 wide receiver in the National Football League, one of the best receivers I've ever seen. It's very rare that somebody says Keenan Allen's the best wide receiver in the National Football League. He might be the best receiver in the National Football League. He's that good. He really is. He's really that good. Maybe closer to top 5. But he's probably not the best receiver in football. Nobody talks about him, but he's easily a top 10, underrated as hell. Pro Bowl tight end. Mike Williams on the outside, another really good receiver. Starting to scratch the surface. Not ever going to be as good as Keenan Allen. Still a really, really good player. There's skill position talents around Herbert. The only con I have about the Chargers is the organization's always been a bad organization. It's always been bad. The Chargers organization has always been bad. I can go into so many details, so many rants, but bottom line, of all the organizations, with maybe the exception of the Jets, the Chargers franchise, the ownership's always been kind of unstable. It's always been shaky. Not really a good direction. But there's so many positives about the Chargers. I forgot to put down that they're in the AFC West, which is also difficult. I mentioned that with the Broncos. I forgot to mention that with the Chargers. Yeah, you're in the AFC West. The problem also is with the Chargers that you fired a 7-9 head coach. Expectations would be better in 7-9, but you're not going to be better in Kansas City. You have to fight with the Raiders and the Broncos for second place in that division. That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. All right. Let me get these comments here. Man, this lasted a lot longer than I thought it would. Thanks for joining in, man. I had a blast doing this. This is a lot of fun. All right, let's see here. Where was I at, man? Okay, I gotta watch that, man. Sal also, yeah, he did lose Buckner. He did lose Buckner, and it obviously affected the 49ers defense. Now, keep in mind, he still had Eric Armstead, and there's nobody even remotely close to being as good as Armstead on that Detroit defense. Just remember that. Thomas was, yeah. That is true. That is true. If Breeze retires, I think the rough division goes way down. Yeah, it does. But if you take Breeze away from this team, I still think they're a 10-win team. Still think they're a 10-win team without Breeze. The Saints right now are good. I think there's something like 90 million over the cap. I think it's like 90 million over the 2021 cap. But bottom line, there's a lot of things that are very good about the Saints still, even without Brees. My opinion, Ed Dobbs. Oh God, I can't remember which, or I want to say he's from the Colts organization. He's like the Colts number 2 guy. He turned down the Cleveland general manager job last year. He is in running for several GM positions. A lot of the guys from the Colts came from Kansas City. Excellent fit for a lot of teams. I did not know he interviewed with Detroit. So you have to fill me in on that one. $2-3 hot dogs at the stadium. Is that in Atlanta? It is not that way at Arrowhead. Arrowhead charges you an arm and a leg. We joke around that me and my, because it's like, hey, we have to make sure Clark Hunt. Yeah, I did not know that. Something Clark Hunt needs to do. I'm not a fan of Bieniemy. I don't think that would be a good fit. I think Bieniemy would be the fit I would want in Detroit, but I was wanting him and Dorsey together, kind of reuniting, because I think that they would be on the same page. I like that fit. I'm not sure if without the right general manager, Bieniemy would be successful, but he did interview in Atlanta, but I think Houston would be the perfect fit for Bieniemy. I am a fan of John Dorsey. I would love if Dorsey and Bieniemy went up to Detroit. I would say that would be a home run. I think Dorsey's interviewed for the Detroit job. I've said this many times. There's not 15 general managers better than John Dorsey. So that's a guy you really want to go with. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think Bieniemy would be successful in Detroit. I think Bieniemy's a significantly higher prospect than Saleh. Only thing holding back the Falcons is the defense. I say if they go first 2 rounds on defense, even more if you trade down. Well, yeah, if you keep Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, absolutely. You get as much help on defense as you can get through free agency and the draft. You may want to do more free agency. You may even want to trade. You may do what the Colts did and trade for a guy like Buckner. We'll have to figure out what they're going to do with the general manager situation, because they may be in free rebuild mode. So that's a situation we're going to dive in later on. But if you keep your Hall of Fame quarterback and receiver, that offense is still so good. Matt Ryan's playing at a crazy high level. So don't forget that Matt Ryan is still playing at crazy high level. This year and last year, he was almost en route for 5,000 yards. So Matt Ryan's still playing at high level, but he's at dinosaur quarterbacks where he can't run. He's just got the big arm. Julio Jones, another guy, injured, but when healthy, he's still as good as anybody. But both those guys are in decline. And the coaching. Dan Quinn lucked out last year. I thought they handled it the right way. It was very obvious the team was going to get better, but not good enough to where they're going to make the playoffs. And that was the line this year. It was a playoff or bust. So, but before you sign off, would you let me know you are doing when you're? Oh, okay. Right after the combine, I'm going to start doing a draft video, and I go in draft order. What I'm going to do is start off my first video with the number 1 pick in the draft by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'll talk pretty much in detail of who I think they're going to take, what they could do, and kind of different options. I might do a video every day for every draft pick. I'll just have to kind of wait and see, because I don't know exactly when the combine is and when the draft's supposed to be. I think April 26th. I don't know when the combine ends, but the last day of usually the combine's Thursday through Monday, and then that Monday is the last day. That Monday is a good chance that will be the first day. More than likely, just real fast, I'll just pop out the calendar real fast. More than likely, that Monday will be March the 1st, So March 1st will probably be my first out of maybe 40 videos. Yeah, just doing it in my head. I'll probably have to do Monday through Friday, but I'll do the first pick in the draft, the second, and the third pick, and I'll go 1 through 32. And then for every team that doesn't pick in the first round, I'll add the Houston Texans. I'll do that video after the draft, and then also we'll do retraction videos. Let's just say Jacksonville signs Dak Prescott as their quarterback. I'm just picking a name out of random. Well, they're obviously not going to take Trevor Lawrence with the first pick if they sign a big name quarterback. So I'll do, okay, well, since this, I'll go ahead and put this in. But probably just I'll have to get definite, but just ballpark probably in March. But I'm still going to do Friday live streams. This week I'm going to do Wednesday and Friday. I just want to make sure I got nothing on that evening. Man, James, I'm always glad you're here, brother. I'm always glad you're here, man. I'm going to do a lot of draft stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Gators QB draft capital plummeted. Sad because he looked so good last year. Yeah, man. Are you talking about Trask in the game, or okay? You are talking about that may be a good thing for Trask, and I say that because Trask is a guy who needs a lot of work. I think that if he goes early in the first round, it's not a good fit. He's a guy that if I'm an NFL team, I want to take him at like the bottom of the second or the third if I think I have to see enough in him that I can develop him. I don't know. I think he's got an NFL arm. I don't know if it's NFL weak or NFL average. He doesn't have that bazooka, that Mahomes arm, but he does have good size and athleticism. I would love to see how he handles the whiteboard. Very, very important. He is going to the Senior Bowl with his two receivers, which is really, really important. So there's some positives I like with this game, but it was a real damn shame that so many players opted out. But he's a guy that this may end up working for him. He may go later in the draft to a team that's a better fit. With quarterback more than any other position, there's so many outside factors that factor into that. So him going to the right team, like when if he goes second or third round to a team like Minnesota, no expectations to start behind Cousins, then a year or two, maybe he gets a shot and blows up. Yeah. Pros for Jacks, London games, Tannehill will be an international superstar. I saw what you did. Yes, Tannehill will be a superstar. Why do I keep calling him that? I don't get that. Texans defenses just need some patches. We have talents, but a lot of our guys aren't good. The offense is solid. We just need to. You need. There are so many internal positions that you need besides general manager. There's several front office positions that you need to also get, and then from there hire the GM. It's really important that the GM and head coach get along. This is a great position. This is of all the teams I mentioned, even though the Chargers are my number one team, I think Houston can make the playoffs faster. That's just my opinion. But the offense is solid. The defense is solid. You don't need an overhaul on defense. What you need on defense is just one or two players. And I also think that maybe a system, a scheme, a different attitude is really all you need. It's funny. We talk so much because they run a different scheme of defense, but a guy like Robert Saleh, I think, would be great for this defense. Would be great. But I think Houston's going to go with an offensive mind. Just on. I just think Bieniemy and Houston seems to just sink too much. My mom used to work for a company. Man, I'm sorry. Who are you referring to? I'm sorry, and that's my fault because it took me a while to get these comments. Watson's definitely top 10 quarterback. Let me make a case for Bieniemy. I can make a case. Here's why I like Bieniemy. The last two Chiefs offensive coordinators have had big success in the NFL. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. The Bears had 5 or 6 straight double-digit losing seasons. Adam Gase turns it around like that. They go from 5 wins to 12 wins. Yeah, and then, they only won 8 games each of the next 2 years, but it's not a double-digit losing season. Andy Reid's coordinators have had success. Sean McDermott in Buffalo, Andy Reid. Ron Rivera in Washington, Andy Reid. Belichick coordinators not been successful. Andy Reid's has. But the reason why I like to be enemy in Dorsey is Dorsey's an expert at rebuilding rosters. That's why I would love him in Detroit, because there's not anybody who is better at rebuilding a roster than Dorsey. There's not one candidate who can rebuild that roster better than Dorsey. Not one. And then you put him with a guy like Bieniemy, I think that they would work together very well in a place like Detroit. So, Trask and Jones, who do you want? Me, neither. I want to see both at the by the way, Trask is coming in is going to the NFL. I don't know about Mac Jones yet, but let's say Mac Jones is. I got to see these guys at the combine. Out of the two, Trask. The problem with Mac Jones, from what I've seen, I don't think he has an NFL arm. And even if he does, look at the talent he's had. I mean, that's an NFL team playing against college kids. I was much higher on Tua than Mac Jones. If I'm Mac Jones, I go back to college. If I'm Mac Jones, I go back. That's just me. Unless they're bringing in some kid who looks like a world beater. And then you may get your job taken away from you. Alabama, Clemson, there's maybe 2 or 3 other schools that has guys like that coming in each year. But unless they got somebody who's behind you that looks like he's going to be a superstar, I'm Mac Jones. I stay in school. 100% stay in school. So I specifically said Tannehill. Yeah. I got to stop doing that. I'm going to do it at least 14 more times, minimum 14. But that was my New Year's resolutions, to quit calling Trevor Lawrence Ryan Tannehill. Why I get the two mixed up, I don't know. I think I'd rather have the kid from Texas in the third over those two in the second. Sam Dellinger, I think his name is. I watched him a lot, and there's a lot of things I like about the kid. I don't think he's ever going to be if he is a starting NFL quarterback, I don't think he's ever going to be special. I look at him as a guy who would be like the perfect backup quarterback. It's not, I know it's not the same thing, but he reminds me a lot of Chase Daniel. A winner, a guy that you really like, a guy that does everything pretty good on the college level, but it's really his skill set, I don't think, transforms to the next level. Again, he's a guy I really want to see during the combine, but in my opinion, what I think of him, I think he's a guy who's going to be in the NFL for about 15 years, a lot like Chase Daniel, who's going to make a lot of money. Chase Daniel has made a lot of money in the NFL, folks. A lot of people don't realize this. Chase Daniel, I don't know exactly, but I think he's made at least $50 million in the NFL. He was getting, as the Saints backup, like $4 or $5 million a year. Kansas City gave him a lot of money, signed a 3-year, $27 million deal when they drafted Carson Wentz. And then I think he's making like $5 or $6 million a year this year in Detroit. So he's made a lot of money in the NFL. Being a backup quarterback is one of the best jobs in the world. It really is. You make a lot of money and you don't get hurt. So, but the same Ehringer, I watched the kid play several times. Really high on the kid. I think he's going to be a 15-year NFL backup. But I think if he gets a chance with the right team, I want to see him at the combine. He has to impress me. Those three guys, him, Trask, and Jones, and I think Jones should go back. They have got to impress me at the combine. Con. Really? Wow. That's actually really cool. He owns a bunch of companies. There's a reason why I think he's worth something crazy like $50 billion. He's one of the richest owners in the league. I know he's Pakistani guy, and his mustache is cool. He's got a cool mustache. For Eric Bieniemy, lots of Chiefs offensive coordinators a flash in the pan, start out hot and then fizzle out. Reach tree is very good as reach-in staff on the tree. Okay, I will disagree with you. Doug Peterson this year with all those injuries on the offensive line, Carson Wentz, bad play. I get where you can say that. But the job Matt Nagy's done in Chicago, he turned that team around, took them to the playoffs. Sean McDermott in Buffalo, that's not fizzling out. Ron Rivera in Washington, I mean, dude has cancer, and Alex Smith's on one leg, took them to the playoffs. This is never a channel where I'm right, you're wrong. I just disagree. I think that Doug Peterson had two bad years. Well, actually, it was one bad year, then a Super Bowl. Last year did a good job. Year after that did a pretty good job. Got him to the playoffs, and Wentz got hurt. But this year, not his best year. But I'm gonna tell you something. Let me ask you something. You get a new you get a new coach. Start off year one, the 7-9, but there's hope, right? Year two, you win a Super Bowl. All right. Detroit's never won a Super Bowl before. Next 2 years to go to the playoffs. Then you have a really terrible season. Would you take that? Would you take that? 5 years, one losing record, one Super Bowl, 2 playoff appearances, and a losing season in 2020 of all years. That's not bad. Would you take nobody thought, and by the way, he not only did he win a Super Bowl, he won with a backup quarterback against Belichick. That's pretty impressive, man. That was pretty impressive. Loses his NFL MVP quarterback, takes the backup, and wins the Super Bowl. You would take that. If you're a Detroit Lions fan, if you're going to tell me the next 5 years you get a Super Bowl, one of the craziest Super Bowl victories of all time where you outcoach Belichick, a couple playoff appearances, and then you have, in one of the craziest years in recent history, you have a bad year with the most offensive line injuries of any team since, I think they said this, they had more offensive line rosters than any other team since 1980 something. So I would disagree. I disagree with you there. All right, guys. I actually thought this would be a much shorter show, but man, as usual, we just talk football. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. So listen, man, if you haven't already, give me a thumbs up. Give me the thumbs up. I've earned it. And then drop a comment below. This is going to be a yearly thing for those of you that are planning on being here for a while. I'm going to do this for as long as I can. I love doing it. It's my favorite thing in the world. If I had a choice between going out with a beautiful woman or hanging out with you guys talking football, I'm hanging out with you guys 11 out of 10 times. Easy. I'll make her wait. I'm actually make her wait in the kitchen. Fix my computer. Anyway. That's all I got. So listen, man. Hey, don't forget, give me a thumbs up. Drop a comment below. Wednesday. Same show Wednesday. Hopefully everybody comes back. We'll talk football. So, man, hey, look. See you Wednesday, man.